Yeah, you guys
from
should
the
do
edge
it.
of the
Let
sea.
Jay run for you.
Not so much for the GM, but for us.
Destination.
Oh, trust
Jim
me.
just kind
so
of grabs
Jay's been
on
playing
and
with
holds
the
on for the ride.
same guys for like
This
40 years.
My
right?
campaign's 40 years old, so you're not
And
going to
then-
hurt my feelings.
He invited those of us from Living Greyhawk to join him, and then our
Harbor Town
first
is an
adventure, I'd
all-new
already gotten to
series
playing
from
one with
Miniature
Anna
Building
with this
Authority,
character,
the leader in
but in our
tabletop
first Living
gaming
Greyhawk
scene.
All-Stars
Unique,
event,
flexible and playable.
the divers
Harbor Town
guys
will take your
sussed
games
out
to
the plot like an hour and a half into the event.
Unbelievable. It
And
was
Jay's
unbelievable.
Jay's mind was blown, like, because the divers guys were like, "Oh, that's the niece from the sister who's missing 20 years ago," and bing bang boom.
I was like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah. So I think his players are just kind of like, "All right, cool. You know, we're having a good old time. We're not going to think about things too hard." And then the divers guys just came in super paranoid. It was awesome.
Sounds like every virtual Seattle game we ever played.
Yeah.
Spent the first 3 hours clubbing, and then the last 15 minutes we got it done.
It was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy, but it was fun that they were able to sniff out where the direction I was going. But they are paranoid people, I'm telling you. Oh my gosh! I think there's like my main knighthood organization, and that they're secretly in the league with IUs and stuff. I'm like, what
Yeah,
are you
it's
guys
gotta
coming
be.
up with this stuff?
Got a half drow in. Yeah.
Yes, yes, we can definitely discuss some of that fun stuff.
So I definitely think we should build a troop of characters, guys.
I'm
guys should.
should all be
I'm in
halfling
for running
wizards.
it.
Watch
And
on
all of
Saturday.
you still have your creative juices flowing. I know you're getting old, but
Well, what you should do, it starts at 6 p.m. Eastern. You should watch it Saturday and see if it's something you like the style, you know? Because my style's not for everyone.
Can we D3K it on the side? Is there like audience like chat and heckle?
Oh, you can actually cheer, give cheers to help to help them or hurt them. Oh yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
That's partly why I recruited Anna to join us, is because the audience was throwing monster bonuses at us. Just like, oh, look at these Living Greyhawk guys. Here, let's make it harder for them. And so once we had Anna join us, the audience is like, we love Anna. So they give her all the bonus points.
And that's the only reason I'm in there, so it helps.
That's right. She's awesome, but that helps.
So good. Shout-outs work so far.
That's fun.
I hope I don't I hope this doesn't put anybody down, but I have to admit I'm really starstruck about being on here with Anna.
That's all. No.
The work is amazing, and
Thank you.
thank you for all the stuff you do.
Oh, thank
I
you.
missed my
It's
cue
thanks
there, and
to
I ran the
all
same ad
people
twice.
it's thanks to all the people that helped me do it. So yeah.
You just
Through
missed the button,
Patreon
that's all.
and
I did. I was.
giving me all the cool criticism and helped me out with the research and stuff. It's awesome. Yeah.
Well, it really is awesome.
And then Rob, we have a living legend at very top, Leonard Lukofsky
Yep.
on. I mean, how much of a living legend do you get beyond Leonard? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to tell Leonard I was talking to some other D&D nerd, and they said, oh, cleric of Ouijas. And I said, no.
BG.
EG.
Leonard Lukofsky's on here?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he's
Leonard Lehman. The guy Lehman. That's
Oh,
Leonard.
I just thought somebody was stealing his thunder. Oh gosh, there's a whole other screen on here.
No, that's
Yeah.
Leonard.
See?
Yeah.
Got it. Yep. No,
That is Leonard.
Really starstruck. Yeah.
And my
good
mind
thing you're
was
not using his
blown
name anymore, Rob. That would have been awkward.
Yeah.
when Leonard said it was Ouija.
Yeah. Welcome
On
to
that
Legends
episode,
and
my
Lore. We
mind
have
was
some
blown.
awesome legends in here. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
I did Wizard of the Coast had a questionnaire or like a survey they
A
did.
long
and I
one.
did a really long one.
God, it took an hour.
And then there was like, oh, any designers like you're so on and so forth. I simply just clicked everyone that you heard of, and it was like, yeah. And we're going to chat with one tonight. So it's
So
awesome.
we're giving away 2 sets
Yeah.
of those Wiz Dice, Stratagem Wiz Dice tomorrow night's game. One for subscribers, one for general sign-ups. So from that one's Wiz. Yep, they're big. Casey, you won one, didn't you?
I did win a set. They are 25 millimeter dice.
Yep.
Yeah, I've already won some dice from Jay, metal
they-
dice. So I gave these to my wife.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. And they roll better for you than they do for Jay, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Where
Find
do you
out
see
on
the
Saturday.
crowd, guys? Where do you see the crowd we have on tonight? It is awesome size wise.
Yeah.
Look, we're at 752 still. All right, this is my brand new sponsor. Wait till you see this stuff. Gamescape 3D. We got 2 3D
Yeah.
printers running right now.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Is anybody doing 3D printing of miniatures and stuff?
We just I don't do miniatures because Reaper sponsors me but
Okay.
we're doing all this terrain, all these roads you see here. We're in the process of printing these out right now for my game. Yeah.
They did
so.
an episode on crafting and 3D printing a month or two ago on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
And like I, for one, am now in the gotta save up for a 3D printer camp for when the virus is over and I'm having
That's
table games
exactly.
again.
Yeah, that's me exactly. I'm trying to figure out what I want to buy when I'm ready to buy it.
David, I can help you out with that. I mean, that we have Bill the Master Crafter and Brian Sublime. We have an under 3 and an under 5 running right now.
I'll be
getting
right
all this
back.
together. So, what's up, Select Striker? What's up, everyone, man? Sorry, I got so many guests here. I'm ignoring the audience, but that's okay. We should have a large crowd tonight. Thank you all. So,
Hopefully Teos can make it in the audience tonight and other Geoff players so they
it'll
can
be
catch up with y'all.
Call us out on our lies. It's pretty terrain.
I know I told this to Eric and Jose, but Teos had come over to Houston. That's how I got to meet him. So I'd run BK module for him whenever he traveled. And we actually wrote a special mission, which was cross-regional, the one I'm aware of, in Greyhawk. Because in one of the adventures you guys had, you could have a Fey baby, and a BK player had traveled to Virginia, had the Fey baby, came back to the Bandit Kingdom, and told us, like, I've got this Fey baby. I want to visit it or whatever. And then we were like, what the hell are you talking about? So I reached out to Teos. He's like, oh, yeah, that's from Geoff 505 or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, can you help me write a special mission so this guy can go visit his Fey baby? So Teos and I collaborated. And as far as I know, we have the only cross-regional special mission because it starts, I believe, in the Bandit Kingdom, but then goes to the, what do you guys call the Feywild?
Fairy.
Just fairy. Okay. And it goes there and he visits the baby and then he comes back to the BK if I remember correctly.
Are you still in Houston, Casey?
No, sir. I am now outside of Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, he drove
I'm
from
in Dallas,
Boston down to
that's
my
why I
house for the Falcon Return of the Falcon 24-hour stream event we did with 5 channels.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, David, you were saying?
I'm in Dallas. That's what I was
Oh.
asking.
Okay. Yeah.
so you're right near Reaper's headquarters.
I am. I have been told that I can go over to Reaper headquarters on Saturdays and paint minis for free, though I have
That's
not
awesome.
tested that out yet.
Well, if you want a connection there, they sponsor me here, so I can get you the right people and just talk to Michael Collins or Ron Hawkins, the art director, and we can go with that.
Yeah, I'll get back in touch with you once COVID breaks a little bit.
All right, so we're going to go to the welcome screen after this, and that was all the events going on. We have some really great stuff for Greyhawk Con. We have all 3 days completely filled, highlighted streams. So, what's up there, Mike?
Yeah, Mike hasn't even had a chance to say hi.
Yes, I was actually talking to Mike Saxton, Richard Gamer, and Meth, but yeah, Mike Bridges is like just chilling out
Oh.
there.
I mean, our Mike.
Our Mike, yeah. So, hey Sean, Geek Dice, what's going on? Good to see Wily Hobbit's stream. Wily Hobbit's event for Greyhawk Con got filled, and so I converted it to a highlighted stream. I also did it with Dragons in the Dining Room today as well, so we got 14 events sold out now, which is pretty cool. So, let's get into Alright, is it Geoff or Geoff, guys? I went through this last show.
That's a great question. I've always said Jeff. What about
So
the rest
have
of you?
Jeff, okay.
Jeff. Because I know a guy who actually, one of my guys was from high school, was named Jeff, and it's spelled exactly that way.
I mean, wasn't it named after one of Gary Gygax's buddies named Jeff?
I think
I
so.
think so.
Probably.
I'm just so glad I got the first question right because I'm really hoping to get that car.
the bit of Casey on that Fate 80 story award we had, that was originally supposed to be a trap because you blow time units like a madman on that.
We'll come on 2 minutes early instead of 1 minute early than we normally do. So,
and I thought people would avoid it like the plague, but it was odds to a flame. I had never seen like that before.
Come on, Eric. You know the player base we had.
Well, and we thought the BKT's cost would deter people, but when you could make multiple characters and they would just get their own fresh set of TUs, you know, if it was really cool, they would do it. We had an adventure where you could get seduced by a red dragon, and it was implied that your female character, if you so choose, fully consensually, could have a half red dragon kid. Now, you couldn't have the actual kid. That Chris Tulloch said, "Hell no" to that.
Hell no. That's what
but
I've
we
been
implied.
saying to
We
Casey
said
all
like
week.
Yeah, it's true. We said like for 16 time units, you will be off doing X, Y, and Z kind of things. And a couple of chaotic, neutral, high charisma characters just really wanted to say that they had slept with Morgenstauler, so they did it.
So this is the biggest crowd. Even this is a bigger crowd than we had for the 100th Gavin show to start off. So we have 10. Though, let me go around the horn here. So our normal regulars are the great Leonard Lakofka, Anna Meyer, Mike Bridges, and Casey Brown, who comes on during all the Living Greyhawk discussions. Now, returning from Geoff from the previous discussion of Geoff and Keelan and Geoff. Listen to me, I'm already hacking up stuff. Jose Ortiz and Eric Mengi, right? Did I say that right? Yep.
Yes.
We have a bunch of newcomers today, and this is where this conversation is really going to be getting really exciting. All right, so Shalom West, I said that right?
Close enough.
Close enough. Okay. Yes, David Quick, Rob Cannerman, and Brad Lester. Thank you all for coming on. This is going to be a really intriguing discussion tonight. So for the newcomers, we'll start with Shalom. Let's give us a little background about yourself, maybe what you're doing now, how you got involved in Living Greyhawk, and then we'll take it from there. We'll have Leonard who wants to do a cookie giveaway contest. So go ahead, Shalom. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. So I've been gaming forever, since I was 8, but the whole reason I got into Greyhawk was David Quick's fault. It's all his fault. Awesome. He snookered me into accepting a position as a Triad member, and then I became the only Triad member for a while. And the best part of it is that as soon as I agreed to this, I got married, and well, that kind of killed time for the game. Now I went on to do Delta Green, which was we did Delta Files, which was a ongoing Call of Cthulhu campaign in the Delta Green setting. We did that for about 10 years, and then I've basically been hiding in the weeds ever since.
Well, welcome, and maybe we can get you out of the weeds, right? There's some possibilities here. Maybe after this discussion, the blood will be flowing again of Greyhawk. Like, oh my gosh, So you never know. You never know. Thank you for coming on. Rob, what do you got going, man?
You know, there's we have a few different kind of overused plot devices, and one of them is like the mastermind evil guy. Well, you're going to sense a theme here because I totally got pulled into all this by David Quick. Oh, yeah, we're doing this thing. And he pulled me in and said, let's make it fun. And ended up being a lot of fun. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, Shalom and Rob, what years were you both Triads?
Right from the start.
Yeah.
Not long after either. All of us had kids that kind of took up. Well, definitely speaking for myself, and I know Shalom just said that, but we had kids kind of take over our lives for a few years, where they needed all our time, and now they're pretty much at that age where they don't need all of our time again. Although I will say, I'm getting major dad points tonight because my kids did not believe I was on Twitch. They didn't think I was cool.
Really?
Oh, now you're cool. Awesome.
My daughter is probably tuned in right now because she is convinced that I'm not really on Twitch, that it's just like, so
You're on Twitch.
They're gonna think
stuff, Daddy. I know you're just doing school stuff. I'm like, 8 o'clock at night? Really?
they're
That
gonna
is
think
awesome
you're cool
to
until
hear.
they watch,
Yeah.
That
and
is.
then they're gonna be like, "These guys are nerds."
But no, they're used to us. Trust me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
Well, welcome, Brad. Welcome too.
Well, thank you. Let's see. How did I get my start? Well, I played when I was younger, and then, of course, in like community college, I did it. But then, time I got through, university and all that, I kind of quit and started working. But a friend of mine said, "You got to come to this convention." We did basically Legacy of Valor was what he was talking about. It just blew his mind. And so, sure enough, we come down to the first convention, and I sit down at a table. I was kind of leery at first because I was like, yeah, I hadn't played much in a while and kind of had gotten out of that whole sitting around all hours of the night, eating junk food and rolling dice, right? But then sit down and started playing. I had a blast and learned to hate owlbears. Monks and owlbears don't mix. But yeah, and then it was like, started talking to the people around me. It's like, oh yeah, what do you do? Oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, and I'm a network engineer. It's like, which was what I was. It's like, wow, just like I am. So kind of got hooked into playing there. But then shortly thereafter, I think it was Eric.
Dave Quick.
Oh, is it Dave Quick? We're gonna blame him for that. Actually, him and Shalom were involved probably. Asked me to join the triad. So Eric, myself, and then ultimately Mark Judson together was the next kind of level tier or whatever of triad members for Geoff. And then after that ended, I took a small break, and then some people asked me to gin up something for them to run. So I did like another, after like 5 years of my own thing called Star Legends for local conventions around here. It was a science fiction based thing. Then after that, I had life issues and whatnot, so kind of hung out in the back, not doing much. But now I'm starting to pick things up again, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, thank you for coming on tonight, and like I said, maybe we get those blood boiling again for that Greyhawk era, gaming. It's something that playing D&D and the companionship and the friendships you have. It once you get them back together, you're like, oh my gosh, we got to stay in touch. So welcome, thank you, David.
Yeah,
thank you so very much for coming on.
happy to. I feel like I should be pixelated at this point. With a different voice. When we were in the middle of testing 3E, a number of us, leading up into 2000, and we had already heard word about Living Greyhawk at a very high level, what it was going to be. And I was, at that point, a regional director for Wizards of the Coast, which was a contract marketing position for the Wizards. I took it seriously. Anytime I'm being paid money, I take it seriously, and I go out and I do the best I can. And so when we heard about Greyhawk, most of us were involved in Living City.
Okay.
I think most of the people on the screen were involved in Living City that I know personally. And so we were already pretty tightly knit. We were playing at tables in that iteration of organized play. We knew each other's characters. We knew each other well. And we started talking about how to really jumpstart Greyhawk. And so when that came around, I went out and I found people that I knew well and had access to geographically so that we could begin brainstorming.
Under ourselves as suckers, by the way.
I think their deal, I worked with Sholem. Rob just said yes. Rob was the easy one. I think Sholem, the deal with me was that I had to help him with his project next. So after we got this one done, I would have to turn around and help him, which I did gladly. But yeah, so we got together and started brainstorming. And as part of the brainstorming of what would be, I said at a conversation, I think I floated the idea of us doing something before it even started to build, quote, a legacy for
Something's
players.
Something is up with Twitch.
Uh-oh.
It may. Are we still on? Let me just. It looks like. Let me just see. It could be with all the storms running through. It wasn't me. My own. It could be a cell somewhere that knocks something out. I'm just checking. Are we still on, everyone?
I got the spinning wheel, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chat
All right.
functions at least.
All right.
Yeah.
Some people got
Yeah.
kicked. Yeah, you have to refresh. So please refresh if you can. It was something happened there. It happens occasionally. It was not on our end. It's on Twitch's end.
Yeah, it
But
twitched.
David, you're jumping into my first question before we've even introduced
Sorry.
Eric and Jose and everyone else.
So
I want
let's
to put you on pause because I'm gonna.
let's
This
walk
is a
him-
fascinating thing.
I'm a gamer since I've been, I guess, 14. And I played every iteration of D&D, and I play a whole bunch of other games to boot. So
Excellent.
that's my background. And I'm in HR. You want to talk about something that can clear a table?
Oh my gosh. That's definitely the case there. Absolutely. What's worse than one HR rep? Michael Scott always says 2 HR reps. No, that's from the office, guys. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Now, for me, it's an HR rep that says, "Hey, I need a favor."
So, yeah, we blipped there a little bit. Everyone, it was not on my streaming end. I think it was somewhere in the network somewhere. Storms are running through the United States all over the place. So bear with us, please. Okay, good, Puppet. Thank you. Jose, welcome back.
Thank you.
What's been going on since the last time you've been on the show?
Oh, not much. Got a new puppy.
Well, that's cool.
Other than that, been trying to get a lot of artwork done and figuring out things. Missing the home game, but yeah, that's about it.
Jose's playing in the game Saturday night, guys.
Yeah.
Jose's playing Saturday night in the All-Star game too.
Yeah,
so.
I think.
that'll be fun.
Jay is a little tired of us being super paranoid, and he wants to go more good focused to kill the bad things because he pushed both Judy and Jose to play good aligned, tanky characters.
Oh yeah, happy to do it.
So Jose is playing an Inquisitor who does not know there's an assassin in our party.
Yeah, but the assassin's an insane goofball, Joe's character, so it's a trick. So it doesn't matter. I mean,
don't trust him. It's a setup. I know Jose. He's really undercover.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. It'll be a fun time. But in character, it's okay.
Sort it all out.
Yeah, definitely. And Eric,
looking forward to it.
Thanks for coming back.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Anything new since last time you've been on? It was just about what, a month and a half
We
ago?
managed to survive Gen Con online.
Awesome. How'd it go?
Oh, really well. Minor hiccups, but for doing it for the first time with Baldman Games running all the online gaming for that many tables, that many DMs, the fact that it went off at all is kind of an accomplishment. So huge props to all the DMs that stepped up and ran our events online. And for Dave and his tech team keeping all the trains running. I was there answering all the DM questions about Laura, Moonshay's lore.
Same thing.
I got Jeff on the mind now. So I had to be there as a resource for them as much as possible. That was the big one.
And since then, you've probably written another 20 adventures because you are cranking them out like a madman. From what you told us last time.
In between answering questions, I was working on the penultimate Moonshay adventure, Castle of Mirrors, which is going to be premiering at Winter Fantasy this
nice.
February. Assuming we have one.
Well, you may have it virtual too, right?
It'll probably be virtual. I have 50-50. I'm not sure which way that's going to go.
Where is Winter Fantasy?
Usually in scenic Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
In February.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Baldman is David?
David Christ.
Okay. So we need to get him and Tim and Britt and Crichton and or other former Circa members to get on with, Eric Mona and yourselves. So whenever he has a moment, I know Conrad's been reaching out to him and trying to coordinate, but we've only had, I think, one Circle member on so far. And I think it'd be really fascinating to hear from the Circle members what their experiences were like.
I can see if I can get a hold of Sam Weiss, but but there's also a Crichton I can reach.
Well, Sam is a cannon fire, person of history as well, so that'd be really great as well.
I'll see if I can track him down. I definitely can get Crichton, and Conrad has a huge in on Dave already.
Mm-hmm.
So they can tell you all about life from the circle perspective.
It's something that, we really want to delve deep in. We're going to do that tonight. So, but before Leonard has to leave in 13 minutes, Leonard, let's discuss this pretty quickly. What we got going here. I'm going to show everyone a vid. Here's Leonard's latest contest for everyone with a giveaway. I'm going to show this quick, and this is you've probably seen this on some of the posts. But Leonard is going to do Leonard's great at building fortresses and stuff out of everyday household Lego items. So there you go, and that is Leonard's nice little terrain set up there. So Leonard, what do you have going? What do you want the crowd to do tonight?
What I want the crowd to do is, there's a map, an area map, that one right there. And it describes the building a little bit better, but there's 5 questions listed there at the bottom, 1 through 5.
Yes.
And that's what they're supposed to answer. And based upon their answers, I will award somebody this thing.
Okay, so yes.
Wherever I can get it up.
Yeah, I know. It's like, get it on the.
Yeah.
So Leonard gave away, for those of you who don't know, Leonard gave away his Leomund leather satchel, and Amy Crittenden won it. Thala won it, which was for a great contest. So Leonard's been doing a lot of these. So here are the questions. What is the use purpose of the building? All right. What is the major alignment represented? Occupants, race, sex, class, level, hit points. Okay. Stats are optional. Draw a rough floor plan. Furniture is not required. And where on earth is it? An exact position. If you need them, again, you can ask me, or you can do leomund@aol.com, and he will give you that information as well. When's this due by, Leonard?
Let's do it by Tuesday, 6 p.m. next Tuesday.
There you go. So Leonard will announce a winner next week. How's that sound? And that's probably why you want to do it by
With
Tuesday.
any luck at all, yeah.
Yeah. So
the last one I did, it got so complicated that nobody did anything.
Yes, but that's what happens, Leonard. You micromanage everything, man. Like down to the Restonford iota.
You got to remember, I'm still in the year 575 and 576 and 577. Well, ever since Gygax lost the company, I'm not a fan of Living Greyhawk, so I'm willing to say that out loud because that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah. But you're a pure Gygax.
That's okay. We can be a fan of you.
Yes.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yep.
You're a pure Gygax.
So anyway, if they can answer those 5 questions, and what I ask them to do, if they put it on Earth, that's where they decide to put the building, then we're going to run that by Anna and make sure there isn't something already sitting there.
And then we can put it on the map.
We can put it on the map.
Suggest a place. But what I'm not going to let them get away with is just saying, well, I'll pick an entire country and it's there somewhere. No.
Yeah, so
you have to be very specific as to where you want to plop it.
So think about this. You'll get it on the map.
Tell me if it's open or not open.
Yeah. So great idea.
Yep.
And please, everyone, participate. If you can whisper me, or if you need more information, or you can just email Leonard, leomund@aol.com. So, all right, Leonard, hang out. Do you have any question for all these gentlemen here tonight?
No.
He already said he hates us.
He doesn't hate. No, he hates.
Well, I'll tell you the rest of my truths.
Go for it.
And I read the beginning of the Player's Handbook of edition 3. I got to about page 20 and I threw it away. I did the same thing with 4 because it wasn't 1 and 2. It absolutely wasn't, and it got a little bit too crazy.
But you kept the 5th edition books.
As far as I'm concerned.
You got
so I'm locked in the past, but that's the way life is.
Yes, but that's okay, Leonard. We love you. Anyway, and plus, you're not a fan of everything that's done. We discovered that when I got that dream spell on you from Arcana, and you went berserk over that. So you didn't like
awesome.
that. And that was a pure
answers.
Garyism.
Yep.
All right.
So
Well, Leonard,
let me ask the Geoff guys real quick, since we
Yes,
have
go for it.
Leonard here. How involved in Geoff are the Sul deities?
good question, Casey.
Yeah.
That is a good question. Let me take a look at my map.
Who wants to? Well,
and
while
see
Leonard's,
what I have.
Leonard's
Give me a
looking, who
second.
wants to take that up? Like I'm assuming Ouija is a big one, right?
Well, yeah, magic and death. It takes in a whole lot of stuff.
Anyone else want to answer that besides Leonard there? On
Show 'em, Rob, Brad, Eric.
We went heavily with the old faith and Geoff.
Okay.
So the Sulese deities were mostly concentrated in Hakak and the more civilized part of the country. But once you got into the back country of Geoff, it was all Shalm and Alona.
It's a Flan connection of the Flan heritage.
Obadiah, Biori.
Right.
So we were going off the Myth and Living Greyhawk last year, where it said that I believe the quote was that the Geoff people were a mixture of the Flan, Iridian, and Swool, exemplifying the best parts of each. And so we were kind of trying to weave them together as much as we could. Like Mayheen was very popular in Geoff. They liked Pelor a great deal. They were terrified of Meyrule. So we're trying to work a lot of that in, but Ouija's being magic and death was much more of a Kawish thing.
Okay. It makes sense for Silent Ones and the whole Keelan deal.
But they also realized that dealing with the Sulese deities was necessary if you were going to interact with Keelan, which was the 800-pound gorilla in the Sheldamar Valley. And Geoff is just this little backwater up in the mountains place. And so they were kind of used to Sulese deities coming, clerics of Sulese deities coming through and preaching, and they would all nod and hand in the money when they got, and then they would wander off, and then they'd go back to worshiping the Shalom.
Almost like pagans and Christians.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Wales and England.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, okay. So no Zerbo, no Norabo, there's not a lot of water base, so no need for Osprey. All right, it makes sense.
Probably the most landlocked part of the Flans.
Yeah, it makes sense with the.
Norabo was very popular among the rogues and thieves types because there really isn't a good cipher for that among the Flan deities, so they grabbed, and Nareba was popular there. But whenever you're dealing with a whole bunch of sheep farmers, sheep herders, and they're not a whole lot of use for Nareba. They're much more worried about are the cows going to calve? Okay. Are the plants going to ripen?
Mm-hmm.
Are giants going to stomp us?
Got it.
Yes.
And the answer to all these things is yes.
It was a very down-to-earth setting. It was almost like traveling in the old world. It would be like leaving London and traveling through rural Scotland.
Yeah.
Is that fair, guys?
No, that's
absolutely.
Wow. All right.
Great.
So I know, Leonard, you got a bolt in 5 minutes. Geoff.
Yeah.
Please. So please.
Well, it would be different Sul gods would be there.
Probably.
They probably would do Ouija because she's magic and death, but then you'd have fighting. I think would be a big one if it's that rural, because that's animals and plants and everything.
Okay.
That would be the logical. That would be close to a major god in that location.
Excellent. So I know. Before we go back to the beginning, I know for some bizarre reason you weren't allowed to use Dark Elves. Okay, which
Underdark was a no-no.
Okay.
Yeah. Wasn't that going to be designated as a different campaign for like high-level characters? or something?
That was the thought, and they didn't want us
Never
digging
happened.
into it straight from Eric Mona in the beginning.
Okay. So, did you guys hold it out the entire time and go with the Fae instead? I know Eric kind of alluded to that but you never went there once. No one said, "I'm going to do it anyway."
Not in the beginning. I don't know about later, but I know we didn't do it at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we also, in Barrier Peaks, we weren't allowed to do anything. A lot of the things that make Geoff interesting.
Yeah.
I think they said no to the Barrier Peaks too.
We
right?
were allowed to go to the Barrier Peaks. We just weren't allowed to go do anything that had anything to do with the mod.
Right. They were just mountains.
Right.
Yeah.
No strange technology there.
Yeah, we
I
weren't
can
allowed to do
understand
anything with
that.
Stoink,
I
because
can
it had been in Gary's novels, and they always said they were going to do something with Stoink, and we just used Drow. We were like, whatever, we're the BK. It's I use. Who cares? But we used them very sparingly.
Well, I guess we in the yeomanry were very close to Irihe Kinglu. So it's not just any drow, it's those drow. And they really didn't want us messing with those drow. So maybe random drow and BK got through, but we got the no drow stick hit.
I think, honestly, Eric, most of the players would have preferred if you throw drow at them as opposed to the Fae.
Yes.
The drow were much more straightforward.
Yeah.
So, Mike Holland, NC. I see faces I know. Is he one of your companions?
Yes, he is.
There you go. He's on. So there you go.
Plausible deniability.
Excellent.
Shout out to Mike. He played the, I think, the head guardsman or the personal bodyguard to the Duke.
Oh, wonderful. What was the character's name?
I do not remember that.
Hold on, I got it.
Well, that's a
Somewhere in
terrible
here.
name.
Len always departs between 820 and 825. You guys did not upset him.
Got
That's
it
just
all,
the way Leonard
still.
leaves, so.
Well,
Yeah.
Sorry, Casey, but I've created about 4 worlds since I was involved in this one.
Well, can I circle you back now to Living Greyhawk year -1, as you called it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I
please.
ask him that? So, was Legacy of Valor the con or the event that Eric and Jose, I believe, previously described?
Legacy of Valor was the event that was held throughout the entirety of the con, which was Patriot Games.
And this was the big,
Something.
massive battle interactive.
Oh, it was way more than that.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, the LARP.
It was 3 days.
Oh, I didn't understand
Oh,
that from the previous
yeah.
discussions.
I've got the breakdown here.
Yeah,
Uh,
Sholem dug up the archives, for which I'm
Nice.
very thankful.
You should scan that.
Let me give you an idea. We started out with an interactive, and that was lunch. We served the meals, so people didn't have to leave, and the interactives occurred during the meals, and so people could move from table to table and talk to each other. Then we went to a module. Then we went to another, what we called an interlude because it wasn't a full interactive. Another module, and then we did dinner as a live action role play on Friday night. So I mean,
Nice.
it was stacked pretty
Wait, that was
heavy.
all on Friday?
Oh yeah, wait. Then there was another mod on Friday
Holy crap.
because we only did it for Friday and Saturday.
So
Oh, no,
this
we did it
was
for both. I'm sorry, we did it for both.
3.0, right?
Yeah, it was
Or
2.5.
Yeah, the characters were in 2nd edition, but we were playing 3.0, so we had some idea as to how things were going to change, and we took some liberties with character creation.
and this was no input from Eric Mona and SRM, or with their
Nothing.
input?
We had. Go ahead, Rob.
No, I mean, I'm coming at it more from the player perspective. So no, I mean, I think it would be better if you answered the Eric Mona.
We had verbal concessions. So first off, they knew we were doing it and they fully approved it. And we had verbal concessions that we could create a legacy for the characters who participated. Because they were very excited by the idea that we were going to get a huge jump start on this game that would really launch it. Those verbal concessions ended up kind of becoming vaporware after the fact. But we still tried to give them as much latitude for what they had done with their next generation characters. I mean, Eric's a great example. Eric played a character through that event, and he got to reference that that legacy throughout his time playing.
Where was the event?
It was in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Okay.
This is the first pre-Living Greyhawk event I've ever heard of that was really essentially a lead-in to the campaign. As far as I know, there was nothing else like this, and I didn't realize that you worked for Wizards of the Coast and helped make this happen. But were you already in the convention coordinator scene as part of your marketing job?
I was kind of in that separately from the marketing job. The two of them just kind of came together here.
Okay. Got it.
And this is really, I mean, when the evil mastermind was sucking us in, this was, oh, I'm sorry, Eric.
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Rob. I'll wait till after you.
So my recollection of this is what really got me super excited. This is how he got me in so easily, but we mentioned brainstorming easily. And I remember sitting down, we were play testers for 3.0. So that was a whole kind of simultaneous thing going on where we were supposed to run around the cons and introduce people to 3.0. You know, we had the top secret documents and couldn't share it. But so we were trying to integrate that. And all of us, you know, of course, we're gamers and we all got our creative juices flowing. So I remember the brainstorm sessions were just fantastic, where we would sit down, talk about these things we're going to do and, you know, play test a little bit. Like, I think the only one I got to run was, I think David wrote it. It was what was that movie with the Vikings, the 13th Warrior?
13th Warrior. Yeah.
David did a 13th Warrior module that had, you know, the mountains and everything.
Guys, can you share that with me? Come on, that's one of my favorite.
That was one for Cro-Magnon orcs.
Oh, there's nothing better than Antonio Banderas with a sword in his hand.
$20 on DM Guild, okay? So
yeah, good luck with that.
We did all this brainstorming, and when we finally showed up that weekend, it's just one of the most special things I ever remember, because we had Wizards was less involved because they were focused on Living Geoff, and we were coming from a Living City background, but we were excited about this transition, and we saw it as an opportunity. Probably all of us were better at taking liberties than we were at towing the line on things. So we had a lot more input into this than we later did once Geoff got started. And it just kind of fed off itself. And all the people at the con, I mean, Mike Holland, who you just mentioned there, that was the first time I met him. A lot of people that I know now for 20 years, I met at that con. And it was because they all stepped up. And I remember as the weekend went on, everyone realized it wasn't like we planned it and it happened. I mean, yeah, sure, we put a lot into it, but it built on itself as it was going. And I remember, to this day, the final interactive battle, where I have never seen so many people die and lose their characters and be excited about it. We were literally taking tables, and as people would die, we'd give them new characters. Then we pushed tables together with the survivors, and we kept pushing them. And it was the last stand. I don't know, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but it was such a memorable event. And kind of our selling point, all this was Living Geoff is coming up, and this is a chance to get your first taste of it. Nobody will get to carry the characters over, but we did do things like they could play the next generation. So they could die valiantly, and then when they started Living Geoff, they could take a character who they knew they had played at the Fall of Geoff, who had died a generation earlier, which created a lot of excitement in Geoff once we got going.
Now, you said
that would have been amazing.
These are 2.5, so you had a mix of second edition and what you knew was coming out in 3.0, which sounds really interesting.
2.5 sounds really official, but the fact is, we just broke a lot of rules.
Yes.
So, were the characters all pre-gens?
Yes. No.
Well, kind of.
Yes and no at the same time.
I mean, did the players bring their own? Like, did you give them a heads up? Obviously, this is 20 years ago, so the internet was not what it was. So I can't imagine you had
email.
Right.
There was email, yeah.
But did you email all the registered attendees? Like, here's your character creation guidelines.
So the way that we did characters is we set up a selection matrix, kind of like you use in Shadowrun, where you could choose whether you wanted your stats to be your primary thing,
right,
or you wanted wealth or influence or magic items or whatever. And they chose down the line which things they wanted to stack, and then they would give me some descriptive thing about what they wanted. And Eric could probably go into that better than anybody because he did it. Jose, did you play that too?
I did, yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember all the people we had. I'm so glad to hear it. But the one character I really remember, more than any, just because it really broke the rules, we had an actual cyborg amongst the PCs from the barrier peaks.
Patty,
Yes.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Which Patty?
Exudash Fortu was the
Cyborg.
character's name.
I forget her last name.
She's a friend
Canyon?
of Solom's.
Yeah.
Did you have the medical guy? Did she have the medical injector or something, or walking around, or just?
I
I
can't
think she had a
remember.
laser hand. That's what she
Really?
had. Yeah.
All right.
Hey,
Well, that sounds like
that's
fun
amazing.
for the pre. Yeah. Okay.
And they
I
didn't
just
do
wanna
anything
clarify
like
one
this
thing.
in
The reason
Living
why we
City.
could get away with all this is because this was all just for fun.
Right. It was all gonna get
Non-sanctioned.
shit.
No benefit to this whatsoever.
Everybody died.
When Jose and I started our actual Living Greyhawk characters, we got 0 gold, 0 treasure, no benefits. All we got to say is Dad got stomped to death by a giant.
Okay.
And
That was not the way it was supposed to be, but you're right. That's how it is.
so
There was
no
supposed to be a
gold there.
cert with some kind of bonus, but it didn't happen.
Okay.
It didn't
Well,
matter. It
I
didn't-
mean, Friday at Tristor, right? It vaporware.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it was a great
it's
story.
I think it's important to understand too. One of the reasons we did this was because we were all very active in Living City, and we already heard significant resistance to Living Greyhawk from the Living City player base. And so we wanted to capture them while they were still together before they all went their separate ways, grumbling and griping, and hopefully capture as many of them as we could to move them into the next thing.
So I don't remember any of that, but remember, evil mastermind there.
Oh, I remember that. I remember a lot of that.
But it's funny you mentioned the Living City conflict because Susan, my BK compatriot, I believe, was a heavy Living City player, and Living Force, Calamar, all of them, Living Death. And I think they couldn't find a seat at a Living City table, so they went and sat at a Living Greyhawk table and were immediately hooked. So at least in Texas and Oklahoma, Living Greyhawk quickly surpassed Living City, and Living City had all that Ryan Dancy drama, I believe, going on that I wasn't involved in, but I heard about. But I just want to give you guys kudos because in all my research, I've never run into anything that sounds this amazing, this well run, basically without any support from Wizards of the Coast other than, hey, go ahead, we won't sue you kind of thing, and you working for them. And you had multiple interactives in the same day. We didn't even try that in the BK, and now I'm like, shit, we could have done multiple interactives in the same day.
Pretty impressive.
Every meal was an
With
interactive.
food, yeah.
Every meal was a catered interactive.
Yeah, it was 2 full days of total immersion.
Oh my
And
god.
I know a lot of the characters were still playing even when we were in downtime, like after the night had ended. I know a lot of them were still talking. Eric's character might have been one of them because he had, if I remember correctly, heavy on the influence and political power for that character.
There was
the
a lot of
characters level?
Imagine
a lot
that.
of finagling going on in the background.
You let me get away with way too much.
So were you,
But you paid for it by being
Oh,
a triad.
yes.
So
all of you were there for the negative one for the all 6
I
of you,
wasn't.
correct?
No, I wasn't.
I was as their player, Rob. Brad
Okay,
was.
but you were there still. Brad, were you there too?
No, I was not.
Okay, all right.
I
He
came
came to the next event.
I came to the first con where they were actually launching.
Okay.
The first HawkCon, is that what it was?
That sounds right.
So,
Yeah.
An
Well, it was
amazing.
actually a
Yeah.
-2 as well that most people were not part of that don't know the story behind. So I can get to that later.
Wow.
There's-
oh,
It created a
There's
huge
magic?
buzz.
I didn't know about Keeper Magic.
Oh no, I caused some issues for poor Eric Mona.
Oh,
oh,
It
yeah.
created a huge buzz, and the reality is, if the only thing it had accomplished was getting Eric and Jose involved at a higher level to help continue the game, that would have been enough.
Okay.
But it wasn't all it did.
It was a huge buzz. It was a really fun community for that when we did that. I remember.
Yeah,
Now
I
we're
could.
old, so.
From a player perspective, I played Living Forest. We played Living City, but Living Greyhawk was the only thing that sort of brought this community together. That sort of it just the storytelling, the Legacy of Valor itself, like that was so memorable that people played together for years and years after that, and you have all these memories of that. I don't remember anything about Living Forest or Living City for that matter, but I remember all basically all 8 years of Living Greyhawk. And it started at Legacy of Valor because that was so impressive, and all my friends that played, we were just hooked. I mean, that was like blew our minds.
And it was a weird thing because we did it as a one-off, and then afterwards we kept having people we didn't know say, "I wish I'd have played that." And if we'd have known, yeah, we'd have done it a couple times, I think.
You should do it in October.
Yeah.
You know,
I have
what?
all but one of the mods.
That well,
Well,
Even
I
just
could-
one
I
of them
I
one
can
would be
reach
a
out to
glimpse
Mark
of
Middleton.
history.
one
Yep.
adventure.
Oh, Mark.
6 to 8 players. I don't know how many had at a table, and I guarantee it would fill up in 10 minutes. That
We
game.
had 6 per table. We had 100 total, so we did have a couple tables that were less than 6.
Cool.
But the assumption, honestly, was that we would have a pretty high lethality rate. I was surprised at how few people died in the first couple adventures.
Yeah, if you died in the early adventures, you got another character.
All right, I got 2
If
questions.
you didn't die, sorry, if you didn't die, did you level?
No,
Okay.
it took place over like a week of real time.
Okay.
I thought the couple later ones were higher level. I thought they, like they were a higher level for like, I think David's ones was mid-tier.
I think we let
from
them
what you
level
chose.
once or twice.
Yeah.
But we didn't build any special rules for that. We just said, look, level per the current rules in your second edition handbook. Because like trying to level a cyborg, what the hell?
Just to make it clear, we could never do this now that we have kids and families. Because we obviously had a lot more free time then.
And we were flying by the seat of our pants. It may have looked good, but we were flying blind for a lot of it.
Everyone, though, I mean, everybody bought into it. I mean, like I said, all these people, like it was, lightning struck. It was cool.
Yeah.
It's a good example of if you have a good enough set of GMs, you can run anything and it will be a good experience.
So, question number 1. There's 2 questions from the audience I want to hit real quick. Besides Eric, does anyone else have a shield?
That two-handed sword, but no.
No, the shield, a shield from
Living Greyhawk shields.
That they gave away at Gen Con.
Did you not see that one?
I didn't
You
see
get
that.
Eric. You gotta go get it.
Oh, you gotta show it again.
While he's getting it, when I wrapped up my time as Geoff Triad, the players got me a two-handed sword with an engraving thank you thing on it. That's still
Wow.
Oh, yeah,
cool.
actually, they did give me something on
Oh
it.
wow,
so
Brad, that's amazing. Where is it?
it's
I
hanging
tried
on
to
my
steal Jose's
hanging on
map.
my living room wall, which is not nowhere near where I'm at right now.
That's okay.
But,
Gotcha.
Uh-oh.
Uh,
There we go.
there's Eric.
Oh, that's
Shred.
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
Hey, that's
There we
real
go.
cool, Eric.
Yeah, Eric and the players produced this for me. I don't know if you can read it, but
Oh,
it's
wow.
Read it to us, please.
Very nice.
it says for having a great fortitude, iron will, and lightning reflexes in the face of a giant situation. The players of Geoff Region, thank you for all your hard work and dedication, bringing us a world that is much cooler than the real one.
Mm.
And then, of
Very
course, it
nice.
has the,
Very nice.
the logo.
That is
I've just
awesome.
loved the
Very
wordplay,
nice.
Giant
That was all
situation.
Eric, I think.
That's
That was
very
great.
nice gesture.
That was because I got one too. They gave it to me. I'm trying to
Very, very cool that you guys would do that. And
Man, the BK players were jerks. I didn't. Nothing.
Don't trust those.
I
CMs.
can't even get all of them to buy my book.
Consider this.
Why are we not surprised?
Consider this.
Did
We
they
let
give you the
people
box,
play a
please?
goblin and a half ogre. So,
Did you get one of
yes.
those?
yeah, there was
Oh,
one
wow.
goblin and
My
one half
PC.
ogre allowed to be played.
That's Jim Trainer, the half ogre, right?
Half ogre was Jim, and I don't remember, but the goblin was a bard.
So you should tell the audience how these special sorted races came about, because I know about the hobgoblin, and I think I knew about the half ogre and the goblin, but I think there were a few others. But tell the audience, talk us through how they came to be.
Well, Eric owed me. Eric Mona owed me for the Legacy of Valor stuff, and I said, okay, well. He said, what do you want? I said, well, I want this and this. And I didn't expect him to let me have a half ogre and a goblin, but he did. And we auctioned them off for charity. And so one person got to play a goblin and one person got to play a half ogre. Thromp was the half ogre, played by James Trano.
I got
I don't
I
remember
love
who got
half
the goblin.
ogres. I'm sorry. I love them, and they're in my campaign in the 1E2E world. I love them. Really do.
I have a question for Brad and Eric and Jose that happened later.
Go for it.
In the beginning, they were really tight, which is common, right? It's always easier to get looser later, but they were really kind of strict with things. Like it was a lot more follow the rule. Rules mattered more than what I would call fun, and there's different ways I write everybody GMs. Do you think that changed later, or did that continue throughout your entire interaction with them? Were they always restrictive, or did they start kind of loosening up and saying, hey, that's a good idea, you guys roll with it?
We had a very good relationship with Stephen Conforti. who was our circle rep, who's in charge of Sheldamar Valley. And he was a big advocate of have fun. Play D&D, have fun, don't be jerks. And one of the ways he had jerks is like unbalancing things with magic. Because then it got particularly the BK all up in arms about how much stuff we were giving away. So we tried to keep that under control, and then he pretty much just let us do our thing. It was a incredible managerial technique called benign neglect, and he just let us do our things. We turned our adventures in, and if he had issues with the magic items, he knocked them down. And other than that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a matter of keeping up with him and saying, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And of course, there were times that, he'd get overwhelmed because, he was overseeing not just Geoff and, these other things. So, while we were putting out X number of mods, it was that times however many regions he was overseeing that he had to review. So, he was easy to work with.
And if you know anything about Eric is a prolific provider of information and stuff. So.
Did we have a regional rep in the beginning? I don't remember that.
No, we just had the circle of 6.
Yeah,
right. I think that was a year 2 or 3 position they created to help them with their workload.
That sounds like a very good idea. That's good. That's a good step.
Yeah.
I will say too, from a business standpoint, by any metric that you would choose, if they could have replicated the success we had in Geoff everywhere across the country, they would have done it in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we heard about you guys in Texas and Oklahoma when our players traveled and would come back and just, tell stories. Not only like, I make fun of the Sheldamar Valley meta-regional ARs, but coming back and having great stories and had a great time and everyone was welcoming and everyone was friendly. And I don't think we've really explained to the audience just how regional Living Greyhawk was. In Texas and Oklahoma, we were in our own bubble fighting IUs. So when we saw certs from other places, we were like, well, we're not getting cool stuff because according to Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, there's no cool stuff for us to get. That makes perfect sense. And if you play in Geoff, it makes sense you're running around getting the cool anti-giant weapons and dealing with the Fae. But it's almost like there were different campaigns because we never crossed over with you guys, but we all had essentially the same rules. And I've said, I think Living Greyhawk actually hurt itself by being a little too regional because the content we created so much could have been worldwide. You could have had a Living Geoff campaign where everyone got to play it, a Living BK campaign, everyone gets to play it, etc. And then you could pick and choose. Oh, I really like the Pale. I really like Keeland. I really like, Verbalbach. And that's just not the way they chose to go. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you, Geoff, guys, we heard about you guys in the BK as being a top-notch quality product if Living Greyhawk was a product. So kudos.
Well, Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say in response to we weren't getting the cool stuff. I remember vividly Sholem coming in and doing his initial intel report on what we were being given in the Living Greyhawk.
Oh, that's a good story.
Sholem basically looked at Rob and I, and who was the third guy? I can't remember who that was.
That Tim Jocelyn?
Tell a story.
No, it was I can't remember.
Yeah, he dropped out of it very quick. Eric, he was gone before you even played Legacy of Valor, I think.
Oh, my heavens.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying there was a -2 in there.
I knew about -1.
But Sholem, do you want to give us the intel?
Yeah, so it's really funny because we had been waiting patiently for what assignments we were going to get because we didn't know. And they mailed them all out to people. All the people in the triads got them, and we got to see what everybody got, and we got Geoff, and I'm like, we got Geoff. Okay. And I said, all right. And it said on there that it was after their book that they had just put out, which was The Fall of Geoff. Oh, okay. Great. Geoff had no cities. We had nothing. And so I immediately wrote back to, this is where my long running, I guess, Eric's dislike of me and relationship with me started, is that I wrote back and I said, oh, great. So we have no cities. So we're playing the giants. So our people can play orcs and goblins and hobgoblins and stuff, right? Because we have no cities. The only cities we have are giant cities. And his immediate reaction was, no. I said, okay, well, where we based out of because the whole country is taken over. So they gave us Hawkok. I didn't want Hawkok. I wanted us to be able to play the Giants. And so they gave us Hawkok, and they had already given Hawkok over to the Grand March. And that started a very, very anti-Geoff triad feel down there, even though we had nothing to do with it. It was a Circle of Six decision that I didn't like. But yeah, so it was in that same email that I asked about the Underdark and the Barrier Peaks, and he said, "Oh no, don't touch those. You're not allowed to touch anything that's been written." Okay.
No Underdark.
So we're not allowed to use anything that's already been written. And that included the book, The Fall of Geoff, which had just come out. So we can't use any of that as reference either. Okay. And then the Legacy of Valor was born because we have to create our own backstory, our own history.
I think our exact words were, "Fuck them. Let's turn this weakness into a strength."
And it sounds like you did.
I like it.
It really does. I mean, the detail is really tremendous.
Well, I think the problem was that they realized, and they panicked when they realized, oh crap, these aren't normal gamers. They're going to do anything they want, and now we're stuck trying to babysit them. So they had to put us in a pretty tight pen, at least in the beginning.
Could you imagine being, I guess, Eric in SRM, was he part of the boss, the Overlord, right? The campaign administrator above Eric, I believe. And you're dealing with triads from all over the country, and each of them is figuring out, like, moo ha ha ha, this is what we can do, and Eric thought it was going to go one way, and the triad said, nope, we're going to do this. Just talk about the surprise. I wish we could ask Eric about that someday, next time he's on.
Yeah, exactly. We might.
Well, I think Eric will definitely come back on.
And Shalom, for the record, I'm in favor of the humanoids as PCs. In my head, I've got a living humanoids campaign that I want to run, where you're the goblins, you're the hobgoblins, you're the orcs, and the humans are evil, and you have to take your lands back from the encroaching hordes of humanity.
That sounds.
I'll tune in for the Sholem versus Eric Mona show. I look forward to that.
I don't remember this relationship being that.
It wasn't nasty.
That was a bitter old man.
It wasn't nasty. It was more, I just don't think he wanted to deal with a 2-year-old.
Well, we didn't fit well in the box. I mean, he decided.
Let's be honest, we like pushing the veil too, so that was not all.
No doubt. But we didn't fit well in the box because he assigned everybody else, and everybody else had these nice quasi-medieval areas with cities and people that weren't at war necessarily. And we had nothing. We were given Beirut, basically.
We had a refugee camp on the outside of Hawkok. That's it.
That's right.
If you looked at it, we were, and Anna can probably tell us more, we got the section when we started, we were between the Javan and the Oit, and the Oit Wood and the Dim Forest, which is like less than 1 hex.
Map.
That was the most horrible situation to try and sort out politically. I think I read through that stuff 10 times just to try and decipher where the stuff kind of matched in and where what belonged where, and the border situation is kind of terrible. So yeah, but
how much of this map is Living Greyhawk locations?
I would say 75% at least.
Okay,
Probably
well that's
more
good.
than that, because that area basically had like maybe 5 locations that was on the Darlene map or prior material. So maybe even 95%. It's almost all of it is Living Greyhawk.
I'm seeing a lot of Welsh on there. That was totally us.
That was us. Yeah.
I was not going to be able to put up with 8 years of people in bad Scottish accents, so we went Wales.
All right, so a couple questions from the audience I want to get to. One of them may be touchy, so we'll save that one for a little bit. How did you guys all communicate during this era? Was it just email, or did you have a group, a chat group, or like to coordinate events?
Yahoo groups.
Yahoo groups.
Yahoo groups.
Okay.
Email and Yahoo groups.
Okay.
I mean, speaking to the beginning, Rob and Sholem and I would get together, and I mean, look, a lot of that stuff was penned out on napkins. I would take home pockets full of napkins and then transcribe it over to real notes.
Because he's the only one that has good handwriting.
A Wizards doesn't pay enough for paper, so they had
to pay
well,
anyway.
To be honest, I remember many a days going and meeting Eric in L'Enfant Plaza and having the greatest chicken in the world, the greatest fried chicken in the world, and sitting there for an hour discussing. Well, it was okay. The greatest fried chicken in La Font Plaza.
There we go.
And just discussing plans even after I was done with it. With being a triad member, we met for at least a year and a half, going over stuff. So face to face was the best, but a lot of it was email.
Okay.
Yeah, Jay, there was a Yahoo group for players that had thousands of players on it. It was run by Mark Middleton, I think, who had come from Living City fandom or administration.
He
And
was
I don't
one of
know.
our authors.
Oh, okay.
For
So
Legacy of Valor.
And he moderated it, and you could make 3 posts per day. Well, as you had thousands of people on this thing, and it would just be nuts. And then we had a triads living Yahoo group rather, where the triads could all bitch at each other about why did you give out this +5 spear of dragon slaying? Oh yeah, well you guys gave out a cursed intelligent sword.
Oh,
And we're like, yeah, you're damn right we did. But so we would do that, and we would ask the circle highly and like, okay, can we use the drow? Can we do this or
So this
do
was
that?
the
or
Discord of
whatever?
its day.
And then
Yes.
each region, like in the BK, we had one that was just for giving out information, news, convention updates, things like that. And people could use it to ask us questions. But then we created an in-character Yahoo group. And I know these Geoff guys have a lot of stories about their, and we modeled ours off of theirs, I believe. So we had that. And then those of us also created meta org Yahoo groups. Like that could cross the regional borders but weren't official. Like I organized the Kellenin Church of Swords Yahoo group so that I could be in touch with players of Kellenin PCs across Living Greyhawk and just kind of trade ideas with them with like, what do you think, the holy symbol really looks like, or just stupid Kellenin type stuff. So Yahoo groups is where it was at for us.
We had a Yahoo group for the players, also for the triad, and one for the authors. But we also had the Mid-Atlantic regional newsletter that went out. I think it was every other month. And in that I would write letters from Herald to Herald, letting people know what was going on in Living Greyhawk for Geoff specifically, since that was our region. And actually that character was part of the Legacy of Valor as well.
Do you have them still?
I have some of them.
Keelan did a lot of good stuff with that too. I remember Keelan doing some. Frank Menser and some of the other people over there.
Someone just brought up the question that got asked. What do you all really think about Keeland? And I'm assuming first off that you did crossovers a lot because of Jersey, PA, and New York State, right? And so you had joint events. So who wants to take that one up?
Didn't happen in my time, so I'm going to point over to Eric.
I think I was the contact with Keelan because I was really good friends with Judy. And Christian and Sam and I could stay in the same room and stare at each other. But I enjoyed working with Keelan. They were insane. And it was kind of like we were the country bumpkins, and the Keelan had all these grand schemes of like a 20-year plan. I'm like, oh, you're never gonna make it through that. And so we're like, oh yeah, sure. They're like, will you resend people that will join our Court of the Land? I'm like, yeah, sure. Will there be free food? Yeah, we'll show up. And then we negotiated. They send us a princess, and not too high a level of princess. There was his youngest daughter, Convertus's youngest daughter, and that's where Khalees came from, and she became a major actor in our story. But they were fun, and probably because they wanted such different things than what we wanted, because their storyline was so political and lots of intrigue and subterfuge, and we were trying to retake a country from giants. So we would promise everything in order to get what we wanted, which was support.
Okay.
And not to be annexed by the Grand March, which was a continual terror for the players for
Wow.
all 8 years.
What area was Grand March? Who had Grand March?
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Oh, so it was okay. So it's one. All right.
Actually, they did try to take us over in the beginning. They tried to convince the Circle of Six that we didn't need 2 regions for those 5 states. Do what they wanted. So
I heard that one, but if you raise that flag, it gets the players all antsy, and then they got nervous about what are those knights to watch really up to.
Eric, I know some of the player groups up in that Jersey area. Would it be fair to say that the Keelan mods were a little bit more hardcore than ours? I always wondered how they challenged those players, because some of those players, I mean, they were tough.
Some of the toughest living city players, some of the real hardcore living.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
tweaked out character builds.
Wrote their adventures themselves. So the tough players wrote these adventures to challenge their tough players. So they pulled every dirty trick in the book.
That's what I thought.
And so whenever Geoff characters went in there, I quickly found that my most successful character was a bard, whose entire job was to buff all the KOH characters at the table, and then I stood way back and let them take all the dying. And then if I got grappled, I de-doored out and managed to survive it. But otherwise, man, it was like walking into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, it was a meat grinder. Yeah.
They wrote far tougher mods than we did.
I heard
we
that
were
from
more
BK players who went up to Keeland and came back just kind of shaking their heads like they're not taking this into account for CR calculations and EL calculations, because for the audience, Living Greyhawk had a very specific formula. There'd be 3 encounters per adventure. The average encounter level, this is 3.x terms, the average encounter level would be APL +2. In the Dungeon Master's Guide, it says APL +2 should be like a medium or tough fight or whatever. And you could move it around. You could have an APL +0, an APL +2, and an APL +4, and that would equal out to 3, APL +2 averages. But if you're a mod author and you're saying, well, I have a red dragon, but the red dragon's in a volcano, and you don't adjust the encounter difficulty for that, the encounter level, that's not really fair. And it sounds like what you're describing, Keelan was doing stuff like that.
Well, I have to tell you that those rules didn't exist in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
We were kind of the reason for that rule to happen, because your first level characters, that's fine. If you're going to go up to the hill giant and threaten it, it's going to kill you. So we had encounters that you should not fight. And we actually had a priest of who's the one that hates everybody but humans? I can't remember what that is.
Wash tree.
He walked right up to a giant and told it to carry his bags. So I believe it was.
Are you saying that
points for role play?
Are you saying some encounters are tests of intelligence and not strength?
I would never say that, but yes. It's after that, that story got passed around up to the Circle of Six, and they said, "Wait a minute, you mean you're not following the CR rules? What CR rules? They'd never sent them out."
That's interesting.
Wow.
Oh, so that was the reason I had to spend all this time doing all that math, all those late nights.
I told you, Eric Mota didn't like the way I was thinking, so he put me in a very tiny little box. Well, it was because we were the first ones to actually produce a module, and so nobody had actually done it yet. And it kind of shook some trees, and then the rules came out, and they were very strict about it after that.
That's because I actually think one of the weaknesses of Living Greyhawk was the canned format of 3 adventures and get your XP and gold. And you knew we had players who were savvy. Obviously, any D&D group's going to have them. And they would be like, okay, I'm going to save my big items, spells, and whatever for the encounter that's coming up. I can tell this is a pissant encounter or whatever, unless it surprised them somehow. And then they would just trounce it. Well, we are always told our authors, just write for the average party, because if the twinked out groups want to just mow through everything and that's what they have fun doing, fine, whatever. But there was power creep because all the books came out, and then we kind of got bored as authors being like, this is dumb, they're just mowing down, and we didn't see average parties except for noobs when they came into 3rd edition. So we started upping it to the point where we got silly in the BK, and next thing you know, you have rocks dropping Geoff demons on people, so
yeah, that module with the giant going splat with people, there was no need for them to fight any of the combats. They could have gone around all of them. because they're going out into the giant lands.
Well, there was I mean, a lot of the time the XP was tied up in combat.
Yeah.
So if you didn't do
Yeah.
that, you got no XP.
I
Yeah,
still have to
later,
be-
75% of the
Yeah.
mod had to be XP combat.
I didn't agree with that.
Adventures.
No, I agree, Eric. I think there should have been no rule, and you could have just said, you
I
know what?
agree.
I'm an author, and I want to write. You go to a dinner party, and everything is role playing. Maybe there's a trap or whatever, and then that's fine. You put
would've
it
been
in the
awesome.
blurb, and you're another author, and you say you're going to go dungeon crawling, and you're going to kill a ton of goblins during this thing, and it's going to be like 8 goblin fights. That's fine. Some people are going to enjoy that, but I think LG hamstrung themselves severely by doing it's going to be 3 APL plus 2 average encounters.
I feel
Well,
like,
remember they were going to be dealing with, upwards of 4 to 5 mods from each region at minimum. They had to do something, or people were just going to run crazy and rampant.
Well,
Some people would run crazy and rampant.
His comment about shared content. I mean, certainly the regional idea was great, but he is right that there was a real opportunity missed for shared content.
Oh, Eric bounced around there. See, this is where
Yeah.
look now. Casey's the center square.
Well, I'll be bouncing soon
Yeah.
due to my prior commitment.
So, all right, here's a question. How do I start this? Jose,
Yeah.
your character you've provided for me got lost in the fake for multiple years.
yes.
Can you explain that to the audience? What happened?
All right. Well, that was all Eric's fault. He
Quick's fault.
was it okay? All right.
I'll take it.
You already know, the Fae were a pretty big element. Basically, it was the Fae. You were either fighting the Fae or the Giants. And to the earlier point, I think people got a little creative with the encounters where I think they split hairs, and it was a matter of if you defeated the encounter, you got the XP. And there were multiple ways of defeating the encounter, if the author was so inclined. But anyway, in Geoff, yeah, it was either the Fae or the Giants, and in a lot of the modules, you got to go to Fairy and adventure in Fairy, and that drew a lot of people, not just from Geoff, but a lot of people from other regions, because they're like, there's nothing like this out there. Nobody's doing something like this where you can go adventure in a different plane. So that was a huge element. You get babies out of it. You get people with green skin. You get all sorts of really cool sorted items. So there were a lot of people, and it was a good TU time sync too. You could get lost, and you could time the timey-wimey thing would kick in Fairy, and you would get TU sucked out from you because you were doing just you went down the wrong path, or you got off the path. So that's sort of like when I made my character for your game next Saturday. That's sort of like, well, I'm going to make a character that got lost in Fairy, wasn't around for all the stuff, just came back, and is like, what's going on here?
Cool. I like it. But he ages in Fairy.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
It depends on which path you take, basically.
Okay.
So how did you said this was a living Greyhawk character?
It wasn't. I had a bunch of living Greyhawk, but the Inquisitor is not a living Greyhawk character.
Oh, okay, got it. But you've tied it
Inspired
in.
by-
I've sort of tied it into
Gotcha.
a character.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you tied it into the campaign with the deity, right? Alator, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, he was an old faith guy.
And and this character is coming over to Greyhawk City to meet up with Order of Ulick members to meet with them about a certain idea or alliance, and that's where we're going to go and incorporate this character into the group, and I think it'll be cool.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, plus the Inquisitors are fun too.
Yeah. So Vernon, if you're watching, he can't make it on Saturday, unfortunately. So we lose his paladin and we gain 2. The BK guy is not happy with this. No, get these paladins out of my
2
business.
lawful good ones, a straight paladin and an Inquisitor paladin, which is a.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever play Baldur's Gate 2?
Yeah.
Any of you? Remember Keldor Firecam? He was an Inquisitor.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I based
It was
this
based
character
off-
class
nice.
on. So
Oh no, now there's 2 of them.
yeah, it's going to be a blast. So all right, that's a great. Oh my gosh, yeah, JB, that's a no-brainer. So, did Anna get Living Greyhawk insights from her maps? Yes, I mean
Oh
they're
yes,
all
yeah.
over the
When
maps.
it comes to Geoff, it's
Oh my
kind of
gosh.
Jeff. Yeah, it's kind of almost all of it is made
Yeah.
from LG material. And I was
Yeah.
lucky enough that someone very early on, well, at the end of LG, sent me a batch of everything, all the modules, a whole
Sweet.
shebang, so to speak. So I got some other material from various people that people sent me. So that was kind of interesting. So I had to read through it and go back and forth to
Thank
try it.
you for carrying on the legacy. That was the
Yeah.
last big map was my creation for the campaign. So
Cool. Yeah.
like, I see a lot of places on your map. I was like, yeah, I made that.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I
So
sent
that
her a
was,
ton
yeah,
of
I
BK stuff
used
that
it.
she
Yep,
incorporated.
that was
yeah.
the big
Cool.
thing, and I had to kind of, because part of it was that
Had to be there in
that,
576.
some areas I've done terrain, but thankfully in that area I hadn't done any of the terrain because I've probably been too lazy to go back again and redo it. So that way I got way more, even the terrain. Other areas I just had to put the stuff in there because the only real information I had was a Darlene map and then later the Paizo map.
Mhm.
But then but in a lot of areas, especially in the Sheldamar Valley, there was a lot of good maps from the triads that had
Yeah.
some real cool features and stuff on it. So there was a lot
Yeah, that was
more
a lot of fun.
to go from. Yeah.
I'd like to point out Anna's probably read more Living Greyhawk modules than anyone else on the planet.
Yeah.
I've read all of them at least once. Yeah, all of them, and they're like 2,000 or 3,000 or something like that. I probably
Wow.
spent a year, and what I did was that I put them on my iPad, and then I had reading in the evening and like at lunch and break, and I made like highlighted notes, and then I simply took all these notes together and had like a Word document. And I had a David Shepard, he helped in England, he helped me with that too. So he put compendiums together with like 300 pages with highlights of everything that was geographically oriented, so, or had
Nice.
something to do with all place names, and he listed them specifically and how much the population was and stuff like that. So
Yes.
I got
That's
like, yeah, each triad, I got like, often it was like 300-400 pages of condensed material from all the modules and also from all the triad websites, because a lot of triads and stuff had websites back then. So what I did was that this is before Google and this is early days in the web. So thankfully at work we had a guy, he wrote a program. So it simply copied all the pages and saved them. And so I had a copy of all the pages. So I have a lot of the, not the full page, but all the condensed material from it, so to speak. Took all the text and the images and put it down into a database. And then I put that into Evernote so I could search it. So I kept doing it. It was like a 10-year. And I started the last couple of years into Living Greyhawk because I was too busy with work in the early years. So it was at the end of it
Very
that
cool.
I kind of wrapped it up.
Very impressive.
So we
was that David from the Piazza?
Yes.
Yeah.
You should give him a shout out. He's done a lot to be very positive
how's
about
that
Living
sound?
Greyhawk's history.
It's already done.
Yeah.
And Paul Newland did a hell of a lot of work too. Paul Newland, he lives in Bristol, England. He did a bunch of he did most of the condensed compendiums, and David collected a lot of it and read through it, and we had a 3-part. I had others that helped me. Paul Luby sent me a lot of material and stuff back then too. So I had plenty of people that helped me behind the scenes, so to speak. So yeah.
See, guys, honorary triad member. We all can agree.
Definitely.
Okay,
So,
with that, I have to head out. I have a prior
Casey,
commitment.
thank you so very much.
Great seeing you.
See you
Casey.
Saturday.
Thank you, guys.
Prepare
See
to
you
die.
Saturday.
Just kidding.
Have a great rest of the show. I'll catch it on the replay.
All right, I'll see you tomorrow night. You can, bust Tim if he's on. So.
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah.
Coming for you.
So Casey and Tim have this friendly rivalry where they give anti-hero points to me to use against their characters during the game. It's kind of fun. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, Mike, you haven't said a word all night, and now you're center square. So let's. What do you got? What kind of question you have for everyone?
Well, as usual, I'm just soaking in all the Living Greyhawk experience. Not being a Living Greyhawk person, it gives me a chance to turn off my brain a bit and learn some new stuff. Mostly, I don't know if I have any questions. I definitely have some comments.
Well, let's hear it.
I would be outraged if I couldn't use barrier peaks, or
Underdark.
the Liberation of Geoff stuff, Underdark. I'd just be table flip on out.
We still couldn't up to year 8. I asked them in year 8. I was like, "Come on, the campaign's ending. Let me explore the Barrier Peaks." Nope, they wouldn't let us.
So kudos for making what you did out of nothing, essentially.
I think Sholem might have flipped the table.
Well, I flipped the table in happiness when I saw that we got Geoff, because the opportunities were endless.
Yeah.
They didn't like that attitude.
From the liberation of Geoff, though.
Well, you guys had a fun time. It sounds like, and that's what the whole thing was about. And I'm so glad you all have agreed to come on tonight, and just relive some of this. Give me from levels -1, from -1 to year 3, the story arc. What happens?
Yeah.
In the first 3 years. Who wants
I'll
to
take
handle?
-1 because I know that one.
Okay.
Geoff and Gorna falls, and the land is overrun by giants as the heroes are killed, and what's left of the Duke is scattered into the woods. Sholem, you're up.
Hey, thanks, David. For the first 2 years, we were just trying to get our feet wet, so to speak, because there wasn't a lot of guidance. Nobody had done this before, and so it was more of a bunch of feeling actions out into the lands that had been conquered since nobody had been there, and then a lot of intrigue inside the castle. Was the Duke really the Duke? Who was this Herald guy? How is he able to travel throughout the giant lands without getting caught? There was a lot of smaller intrigues, because we really had the foothold that we had was not really ours. So it was basic beginning expansion.
Okay.
And then Eric took over after that.
Yeah, I think Eric.
Sorry, Rob.
I'm sorry. What was that, Rob?
I think Eric drove most of the storyline when we talked about that legacy of valor. I think we weren't able to really follow up on that the way we wanted to, and then I think families kind of took over, and it really. I know Eric stepped in very quickly there, and he kind of drove the storyline from there. He kind of took it in.
Yeah, he had a strong vision. He had a strong vision, and it was a good vision, and it definitely made Geoff someplace unlike anything else you could play in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We got to season 3, or I should say not season 3. Year 3 is when we rounded the corner, I think, with Geoff, and we were no longer just trying to explore and reach out. With the party going through the adventure called The Rite of Eternal Spring, where they started learning a lot of the deep lore that we had and the ties that the Geoff had to the land of the land itself, where we introduced the concept of the power of the old faith and how the old rituals had to be kept, and the influence of the fairies that they had. The courts were out of alignment, and that was causing the giants to be able to do what they did because the Grand Duke broke a fey bargain that he was supposed to keep, and people and a lot of the old faith blamed him for doing that. And also there was hints that the giants themselves were released by a fey bargain. So the party added in a whole nother realm that the fairy was going to have a giant impact on the Geoff storyline. And I did that one because we years 1 and 2, Sholem and David, their adventures were really good with the giants, and I couldn't improve on them at all. But the giants are very big, strong, and do lots of damage. So I was looking for foes that were the opposite of that to force players to kind of have a will save, as well as hit points. And the fairies were perfect for that.
And of course, giants being manipulated by fairies is the best of all worlds, isn't it, Eric?
It really is.
Really, Dark Elf role then. I mean, they really did fill the Dark Elf role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They effectively.
Dark Elves.
So I want to say from a meta standpoint, one of the things as I'm listening to this that occurs to me, if you accept the idea that industrialization and civilization distance us from our wisdom and our instincts and our old ways, what happened to Geoff would have actually been considered a gift in a lot of ways, because the land was scoured, the cities were razed, the people were left with nothing, and began to generally learn their roots, get in contact with their old ways again. And the Old Faith, I think, was a great way to really present that, in my opinion.
So I have a question for you, Eric. Actually, this is perfect. So the Greyhawk Reborn campaign, they're doing stuff with 5e and keeping it alive. And I wrote a module for them that just by coincidence, there's Spay in it. And why is it that every time I ran a living Greyhawk player through it and mentioned the puck in the module, they got really nervous and wide-eyed?
I'm sorry, what was that last part, Rob?
In the module, there was Spay, and whenever a living Greyhawk player sat at the table, they got real nervous that the puck was in my module for Greyhawk Reborn. They had apparently some bad associations or memories from living Greyhawk and the puck. What's that about?
Well, they're tricksters, and the players got pantsed repeatedly by the pucks.
Yeah.
They were not
worse.
So yeah, the pucks do not fight you; they just run away, and they're really good at running away. So that might be a lot of it. They're like, "Oh God, this is gonna suck so much," because they don't stick around to be hit. The other one that people really love to hate was our unseelie she by the name of Gaunt, and who was a vicious unseelie noble, and people loathed him so much. And he just kept getting better, which was his special power, because he could only be killed in a very specific way, and he wouldn't tell anybody what that way was. And so you killed him, and then he would just be back in another adventure.
Nice.
I had to give him a very specific voice too.
So he was the Tom Bombadil of Geoff.
Was Tom vicious and evil?
No, but as far as power goes,
yeah, about that level. But Gaunt was ambitious and conniving, and really liked hurting the players.
Okay.
Dumping them down the well has gray oozes in it, giving them giant music boxes that have rust monsters in it.
So you mean it's Tim from my world? Okay, I got it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
But by
Tim,
hurting the players in more ways than
Brutal.
just people, because you had I remember mod where to get what you needed to get, you needed to give up something of yourself, and it turned out I don't think the players knew what it was until you got the cert, and it was like a point of wisdom. And you had to give that up, and you got it back at the end of the camp or at the end of the story arc. But it was a lot of moments like that was role play heavy and had people thinking out of the box as far as how to solve a particular puzzle, because you couldn't just smash your way through it in fair. You had to really think, and I think a lot of people like that. A lot of people enjoyed that aspect.
All right. Did Gaunt get ungaunted and destroyed in the end, at the end of the arc, or is he still around?
He's still around.
Okay.
He actually fights with the play. He joins the human side against the giants at the end, because they free his queen.
Okay.
Who is the Queen Maeve, who's based loosely off the Queen of Air and Darkness, who has been chained by with chains of time, because fairies are outside of time. And so by using the chains of time, the Sakut were able to bind the Queen Maeve and force all of her minions to serve them, which is how the giants got all their goblin slaves and goblin minions, because they were all the minions from the unseelie lands of Dark Winter.
It sounds so in the end you had a whole series of adventures to figure that out. And was that a core adventure, or no? Okay.
You had to go to the pocket plane where the Sakut had built, which is on the border of the plane of time, to free an unseelie fairy queen. And people were like, I don't know if this is a good idea. And it's a little bit of both. It solves one problem, but it makes another. But in return for that, she had the goblins switch side, and then Gaunt switch sides as well at the end, and turned on the giants.
That was a lot of our mods, was you never really knew if you were doing the right or the wrong thing. A lot of them were that way. It's like, what's the right answer? There wasn't.
Yeah, that
You
right.
had to go over your gut. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you could smash a lot of things, but not always was it the right thing.
When you start a campaign by killing every single player character, it kind of sets a certain mindset.
What?
Like the Rite of Eternal Spring, or that adventure on season 3, which is what we all rotate, what it pivots around. You end up sacrificing the Grand Duke in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe stone table scene.
Right.
Because he has to complete his that was his bargain with the fairies.
Cool, very cool.
And so you have to take him to the stone table and like walk with him, just like you were Aslan through the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It freaked people out. It was fantastic.
So cool.
All right. So here, a question came up from the audience about did you delve into giant lore and giant deities at all, or was it more of superficial?
Oh, that was the other part of the puzzle. I mean, the giants were 50% of it, and yeah, we totally delved pretty deeply into that sort of stuff. There was, clerics of Surtur, and
Okay.
Eric. I think one of the biggest strengths of the campaign was Eric's writing, and he wove the story in such a way that there wasn't anything missed as far as the motivations behind the giants' actions, the fairies' actions, and so you had really fully fleshed out giant NPCs that the PCs could interact with, not necessarily fight. There were factions amongst the giants that wanted different ends, and so that was really a really cool aspect of it. Was if you were facing a giant, it wasn't necessarily a bad guy. You had to figure that out.
I think that was one of the big things about third edition. I mean, we forget it now, but that was 20 years ago, and D&D had already been around for over 20 years by the time third edition came out. So first and second edition were much closer to each other, I'd say, than they are to third edition. And I remember at Gen Con, one of the really big deals that everyone was so shocked by was a Dwarven Bard. Because there were so many class restrictions in the first two editions, it was like, whoa, what? I can be a Dwarven Bard? We take that for granted now. But so yeah, doing some of that stuff with
It's okay.
Doing some of that stuff with giants. I think that was part of the fun that we were exploring that we knew with third edition, was taking classes and saying, oh sure, why can't a giant do this?
So we did have some. The frost and the fire were pretty well defined already. So in D&D lore, so we didn't have to do much
Because of their
that.
Norse deities, is that why?
The frost ones are more hunters and challengers, and the fire giants are much more lawful and industrious, and they're like the iron forkers. So that left me with the stone and the cloud, and so I made the stone into modeled them off after the Masons. They were this giant Masonic organization that wanted to build constantly, and that's what they wanted.
Okay.
Most out of all the things, they were happiest building things, which is why they served the Sakut, because the Sakut needed roads and fortifications and citadels, and they even developed this huge monoliths. I think this was Shalom's Dave's idea, which were these massive statues that they would drag onto the battlefield that would like pulse out anti-magic fields, or I think just junctions.
Junctions. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I want to talk about.
Oh my God!
You want to talk about a lot of brown pants? Should have been worn that day.
And so you had like 8 stone giants pulling this massive thing that was like the whole ground was shaking as you approach, and people would get close, go kill it, and bam, all your magic goes away.
People hated that. They hated
when they survived, they had a good story.
That's right. They would survive, but then their magic items are gone, and that was a big deal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The Cloud Giants, we had factions. They were not really happy about serving the Sakut, but they were forced to doing it because of the Ordening. But they were kind of always acting in a passive-aggressive, undermining manner. So you could actually kind of work with the Cloud Giants if you were careful, and they had plausible deniability.
That's cool.
because they were like, "You guys are on the ground. We really don't care."
And they had monk
we have
levels.
to do this because the Sonics are making us.
That's what I remember from last year. They had monk levels. Yeah.
Oh God, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
So
Cloud hard. She was fun.
the depth and the intricacies sound really, like you guys spared no expense in really getting down into the weeds and trying to explain everything and trying to have this culture of both the Fae and the Giants, which is commendable. Just to have that level of detail. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why people like Geoff so much as a campaign setting. Sounds.
There's some 50th level geeks in this group for sure. We've earned our geek badges.
It's true.
It's got to be a labor of love, right?
Well, I mean, I did this. Started out that they asked me to help with, backstopping Eric with module development and other things, and I did a lot of editing and things like that. But running tables and helping with conventions and whatnot. But even today, I will talk to people, and they'll still, if they, if I mention, oh yeah, I did Greyhawk back then, they'll still mention something that they did. It's even now it's been like 20 years, right? So yeah, it made an impact on people.
Yeah, an established backstory, and even in that 5th edition Greyhawk Reborn game that Rob was talking about, I know there are people who are playing the descendants of the characters they were playing in Living Geoff.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll notice that we. So go ahead, Rob.
I'm done.
Oh, you notice that we kind of interchange Living Greyhawk with Living Geoff. Well, that's because in the beginning it was all about us, and so we didn't really think of anything else.
There's people from a whole bunch of other regions watching this right now going, those guys are jerks.
Well,
they're right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the audience, I think, are really, I don't want to, dumbfounded at the detail. I mean, it's amazing. It is. And I think you all 100% had a positive experience from it. Anyone want to talk about, like, I hate to bring up a sad subject. Tell me what happened in the end of the whole campaign and how it tied up, and then how you felt after it was over. Who wants to start with that?
That's got to be Eric.
Yeah, it's got to be you. I can only talk about when I left.
And Jose.
Well, we had I've wrapped up in 2005, and then there was the second group because they had an end that came in, and Jose was part of the second group. But I don't think right away he was smart and wouldn't join until we wrestled him down and tickle tortured him until he said yes. But with the end of 2005, with the end of the giant ones, the adventurers are finally able to defeat the Sakut, which are a group of 6 storm giants. And it was the father and his 5 children, and they were all amazingly powerful. Because at this point the party is like 12th level, and so we had Mark Judson stat them out to give the party a fantastic challenge at the end with the retaking of Gorna. At the same time, so that was our high-level campaign. We also had low-level adventures at the same time that were weaving in, where the party had to accompany Khalees, if you remember her, the princess from Keelan, who was married to the Grand Duke. And she was trying to find the spirit of the Grand Duke, who, whenever he was killed on that table, did not die. Instead, he was cast into fairy, where he became the Hollow Prince, which was a fairy lord. And it turns out the reason why he did not die is because in an earlier message, he had given his heart to Khalees because of things the players had done during interactives to make that love affair happen. And as a consequence, the fairies take that very seriously. Khalees held his heart. So when he gave everything he had, he did, but she held his heart. And you had to help her find him in fairy, reunite the Hollow Prince with his heart, which brings him back as the Grand Duke to help lead the party and the armies against the force of the Sakut at Gorna and finally destroy them.
But that was only at year 5 too.
As a 5-year plan. That
It was
we
a
were
5-year
told to make a 5-year
Nice.
plan, so we made a 5-year plan.
Wow.
Jose, what happened after that?
Boy,
I'm
what happened
breathless
was
with
that
anticipation.
what happened was that I had no interest in following that act. There was a few, throughout the whole first 5 years, there was a few storylines that were sort of tangentially related to the main story arc of the Fae and the Giants. But there was, I think I mentioned this last time, but there were primarily the story arcs involved the 3 forests that sort of lay within Geoff, the Hornwood, the Whitewood, and the Dimwood. And they each had their own issues going on. So those got wrapped up. And I think the big one, which ended up with the big Battle Interactive at the last convention, was Old Shady living in the Dimwood, the shadow dragon that had caused all sorts of issues for the wood elves in there, and that she had been there for the whole stretch of the campaign, all 7.5 years. And so she was doing all sorts of nefarious things and basically building an army. There was a portal to the plane of shadow that she was basically nesting on top of, and the players had to go into the dim forest and shut that down, and that was the big final Battle Interactive.
Jose, I have a question for you there.
Yeah.
Is that the same Shadow Dragon that kicked off ended the last interactive piece of Legacy
Yes.
of Valor?
Yep. Same one.
Longest
She had a
running
few
character in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a few kids. So there's a few times where people thought they'd gotten her, but it was just one of her kids. So the final Battle Interactive was something else. John Piper, who was one of the tribe members at that point, he was our stat monkey, and he statted up Shady using every splat book you can imagine. And he was here last time, but he was talking about how she had like a 80 AC and like a 60 touch AC, and it was just horrendous battle, and everybody was really into it. Like the table ran till like 2 a.m, and it was like 13 people just gathered around this table trying to roll a 20 because that's all they could do to hit her. And in the meantime, she had level draining breath and dispelling breath, and she had all sorts of just nasty things. So it was this big epic Battle Interactive that was the big finale, but it had a lot more involved to it.
Cool.
That was pretty straightforward compared to the first 5-year story arc.
Well, you had to wrap it up a little bit. You got wrapped up like 2 years before you were ready.
Yeah, I mean that fight actually turned out that it was all right for that to be the last year. Year 8, we were at Gen Con when it was announced, and I had no idea as a tribe member. I had asked because there was rumors floating around that they were going to shut the campaign down because they were going to be introducing 4th edition. And I asked, and they said no, that's not, as far as I know, that's not going to happen. We went to Gen Con, and sure enough, they announced 4th edition, and they announced the end of LG. And luckily, the Battle Interactive was already sort of scheduled for the end of year 8, so that was just going to be the end period. But turned out for the best as far as story arcs are concerned. But there were a lot of people that had just joined. Like I had a few friends that had just gotten into LG, and they were really, really excited about it because they had just played the Fae mods as introductory mods because they could continue to play the introductory stuff. And so they had just gotten into the story. They went to Gen Con, that happened, and they were just so anywhere from heartbroken to really pissed that they'd done that.
Why would they not just roll it over into 4th edition? Does anybody know?
For the same reason they shut Living City down after 2nd edition, Rob. As you know, the bane of every living campaign is high-level characters, and so they hit the reset button just as quick as they can because they don't want to have to deal with high-level characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a level cap, but even that was still, I mean, even 12th level characters, which I believe that was most of the people facing the last Battle Interactive, even 12th level was pretty outrageous when you had, a party of 8 or 6 or 12 at the Battle Interactive for that matter.
Yeah.
But you
We're
managed
still having
to
that bane today with Adventurers League, by the way.
Say what?
We're still having that bane today with Adventurers League. High-level characters are just hard.
Yeah, it's really hard to do. The best I've ever seen it handled was actually in Living City, where they had a separate team running a high-level game. The problem was that entrance into the game was as much political as anything else.
Yeah.
The idea was solid. The criteria for getting in were not.
Real quick, King Steampunk, greetings from Grand March. Always enjoyed heading up to Geoff. There you go. So,
Oh yeah, we had a lot of players from the Grand March.
Yeah.
And we liked them.
I went down there once and played.
Yeah.
We had to go somewhere else to play.
We went down for a weekend, didn't we? Didn't we go down? Play at a hotel?
We went there once, and I know we did that Camp Con in Baluna. They did that awesome thing with where everyone was in cabins.
That was hilarious. That was a Boy Scout. I think that was a Boy Scout camp, right? We were staying in Boy Scout cabins.
Not that weekend.
Not that.
Gary Julian's unlurking now, by the way. So there you go. Puffet Smedger is on and interacting here. So that's good to hear.
Thank him for me for all the work that he did and all the information he's put in for this.
Let's go around the loop here and say when you left, your feelings and what you regrets or had you had none, or we'll start with Shalom.
So when I left, I was completely burned out.
Okay.
I had gotten married and had a son and a daughter. So it was a busy 3 years because technically it started at -2, and by the time I hit 2, I was a father of 2. Fortunately, I had roped Eric into continuing on and making the grand story that he did. I was glad to be gone because I originally was going to be running this Cthulhu campaign before Living Greyhawk got started, and so I was able to go back and do that. But even then, it took me about 1.5 years to get enough energy together to do that. It was really hard in the beginning with almost no interaction, no rules, no nothing that you could get your hands on, and then you'd submit something and they'd say, "Oh no, you can't do that." Okay, well, what am I allowed to do? And they didn't have an answer. So it tended to burn out triad members very fast. I mean, I think we went through in the first 2 years, 6 triad members, 7 triad members. It was a rough time. But no, I the only regrets I have is that I didn't spend as much time working on it as I should have. But that's because life got in the way. Happily, life got in the way.
Outstanding job. Come on, man.
You got to balance all those things, and from just the paperwork alone sounds Herculean. You know what I mean?
Well, we were because of Legacy of Valor, I had 100 people who were emailing me constantly. Well, can I do this with my character because of Legacy of Valor?
Oh my gosh!
It's not giving you any bonus. Yeah, go ahead. And the stories and stuff that people were sending in, it was overwhelming. The amount of emails I was getting every day.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. I would always do it again, theoretically. If I was as young as I was then, I'd do it again. How's that? No, David, I did not give you an excuse to rope me into something else.
We've got almost all the modules, Sheldon.
Shush it. You mean all of these modules right here?
Yes.
Oh, and to answer your question, since I do have the entire character list, Mike's character's name was Nikolai Vasparov. And he was the bodyguard to the Duke.
You and Anna need to get together. I think we'll have all of Greyhawk covered.
Oh, man. So someone's got to commit to running one adventure during Virtual Greyhawk Con in October, man. Someone has to.
Yeah.
We got to get something.
I'm going to negotiate with my wife.
Yeah, there you go. Would you say, Rob? You said 2, yeah?
Yeah, I definitely volunteer, David. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I will tell you that the 5th mod that was the Fall of Gorna was really a choose your own adventure mod. That's how it was written. So literally you would tell them what was going on and then you'd say, well, where do you want to go? And you'd give them options and they would have to choose which one they wanted. And it was ugly because it was, I'm going to go down this way towards the cathedral. Okay, well, this is what happens.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I would say that, we had so much fun with that. I think I've always been a little bit of a control freak. And I think and I know I'm speaking for myself. I probably, I don't think I'm putting words in other people's mouth, but having our creativity kind of, you spend a lot of time and then you're not getting instant feedback, where the internet wasn't as powerful as it is now for communication. We would waste a lot of time with what we thought were cool ideas that would get shot down. So that didn't happen too much before I was like, my energy can go elsewhere. And didn't Delta Green start up right after that? That was after, not before, right? So
It was after.
So when Sholem, David, I think mentioned at the beginning that he had, Sholem had made the deal with the devil with David in the beginning. But right, that was it. And I think we had so much fun killing every single character in Legacy of Valor that we started off that Delta Green campaign. People had a thirst for that. David wrote a module where every character PC started the campaign on a bed of ice, missing a kidney. Like that's how you started the campaign.
Yeah,
So we
and we had a lot of mods like that just really mess people up.
Yeah, we continued that tradition, but we were able to do it kind of without any oversight. So I guess none of us are really good at having bosses.
Well, you're bringing up how we killed everybody. We got to tell the story of the final interactive. So what we did was, and this is where Shady came from. I was playing the Duke. I'm on a chair and I'm giving this speech, and all of a sudden, John Steely comes up behind me and just does this over my head, and freeze time. That's a Shadow Dragon head, and it breathes. Okay, everybody make a save. And then it was okay. Now we have to escape the city, and we put everybody in. We took them to a separate room where we had been having the meals, and they didn't know it had been changed. The setup had been changed.
Oh my gosh!
But we had the rectangular tables just made in a big square, and we put all the players on the inside and all the GMs on the outside, and we just took turns beating them to death with monsters. And as their characters died, they came over to our side. So it was a dwindling number of people trying to hold the walls.
Didn't we give them monsters? Didn't we give them
Yes.
We did.
Yeah.
We gave them sheets of monsters to play.
Yeah. So in the end, virtually the entire player base was turned against what was left of the heroes.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
That was wicked fun.
So everybody went down in a blaze of glory.
Yeah,
They did.
But
Now-
you
now-
managed
Except that one schmuck who ran and then tried to tell everybody he'd been a hero.
Oh well, yeah, okay. So
Jose
okay.
knows who I'm talking about.
So the high mage of Geoff at the time, decided that he was going to leave, and he did, and then he wall of forced the doorway. Now the whole rule was if you go out that doorway, you run and you escape. Well, he left immediately, but then he wall of forced it. So when the last 5 or 6 people tried to leave, they ran into a wall of force, and they couldn't escape.
This did not come from our evil minds. This was all the players.
That was a player.
That was
The players deciding, oh wait, let me muck up the works even more. Which
That's
was
awesome.
Yeah, let me keep the giants in there with all the people.
there were about I think maybe 5 people that made it out with him at the same time as he did.
Yeah.
Because my character was one of them. Eric's character was one of them. And those characters became NPCs throughout the rest of the storyline.
The traitor.
And we could, we had the exception that we could be like, my uncle's still alive, But,
And it wasn't considered a stigmata to leave. That was
right
not the
at
issue.
that point. Yeah.
And some of those characters were helping evac the Duke.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
the Duke was trying to get out with some of his NPC guards, and a couple of players made the choice to go with him.
Right.
And that was a completely respectable decision.
Yeah. And and my character, and I believe Eric's maybe as well, were rangers, and we were helping evacuate the rest of the refugees from the city and get them out safely. So that was sort of our
Eric's
storyline.
character was a ranger.
Yeah.
And yes, that was in his ballpark.
So technically, that was the first battle interactive.
Yeah.
Darlon only survived by chicanery on my part.
Surprising.
If you remember, at the end, as you died, everyone went to the other side. Well, after a while, there got to be so many DMs as monsters and so few players, the DMs started having trouble finding new players to kill. So they started doing what players normally do when they get bored. They start talking to each other. And as a consequence, the DMs, the Giants are just sitting there talking to each other all over the room instead of killing the last few players. Until I remember Shalom making an announcement, going like, "Could anyone who's still a player raise your hand?" And I was the only one in the whole room that raised his hand. And every eye of every GM turned to look directly to me.
Well, and
He said,
all players.
"I'm sorry,
too.
what was that, Shalom?" And they all looked back at Shalom, and I ran out the door. And that was how Darlon won.
Well, and
chicanery.
The funniest thing was that you could really tell the point that the whole defense fell apart, and this is my dad's fault, so I have to throw it out to him, is that he was standing there and there's no players facing off against him. And everybody knows my dad's not a small guy. He just picked up the 2 tables, threw them to the side, and walked up behind the other players that were still alive, and everybody followed him in. So it was like the walls just fell all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's his fault.
So would it be at all entertaining to hear a very brief overview of the entire event?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll do it in the synopsis version. First, I want to call out the authors who were part of that. That would be the guys here on the screen, Rob and Sholem and myself. And then Mark Middleton, Tom Caudron, Brian Andruski, Jeff West, Jeff Hughes, and David Darnell.
Okay.
All contributed modules or pieces of modules. The whole thing started at lunch Thursday. And we then went, the Duke talked to the players and assigned a mission to look into something going on. And the players then engaged in the module Thursday night, patterned after the 13th Warrior, in which they went after Cro-Magnon orcs who were terrorizing the area. Yes, thank you. Then we had an interlude, which is kind of a quick interactive booth, for lack of a better word, in which case what they'd found in that module, they were given orders by a roving patrol to go look for some leader who disappeared from that particular tribe of orcs. They then went to the next module, which was patterned after Where Eagles Dare, the old World War II movie. Yes. In which they went up into a mountain, high in the mountains, and they meet resistance from ogres and a few giant lackeys, and find out that the giant in charge has left, is somewhere unknown. After dinner Friday, we did a final interactive LARP. And at that, they're in an armed encampment outside Tika Town, and they were sent to draw the opposing troops into a trap and destroy the leader. The module that they engaged in was in the vein of Guns of Navarone, where they were trying to take out a huge Eldritch siege engine that was being dragged by these troops. And it ended up being, not only did they do that, but they ended up also being caught in a pincher maneuver. The whole thing had been a trap. So hopefully the PCs prevail. Next interlude, armed encampment again. You stop the horde and escape, but the leaders yet live. We've won the day. Let's move on. And the next module was what I like to, when we originally conceived it, I said it's something between the Green Berets and the Night of Long Knives. There were 4 separate modules that you could engage in.
But we only did places. 2 of them. We only ran 2 of them, though.
That's because that's what they chose. Yeah, we had Dimwood, Dwarven Clans, Halfling Settlement, Gnome Settlement. And each one was a module unto itself.
Wow.
After that, we did the Brunch Sunday, big interactive in the Duke's meeting hall, where the Duke is going to try to muster the troops, talking about how the humanoids have dealt Geoff a severe blow. And at that point, the Duke is poisoned, the Shadow Dragon shows up, and the module, which is the final interactive, begins. And the note on this interactive is, in the spirit of aliens, everything goes to shit.
Yeah. So you were playing through your favorite movies.
That's exactly how we started it. Yeah, we basically storylined it using movies as references as to what kind of tone we wanted for each of the events. And then we ended the whole thing when it was totally done. Somebody, I think it was Sholem as Harold the Herald, maybe, got up and did a denouement of the stories, those who had fallen as heroes and the stories that had gone on. If we did it again today, I definitely would have done the very beginning and the very end as a video. We would have pre-produced the video and done like that guy from Diablo, stop
Yeah.
and stay a while, whoever that guy is.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
and during the interactives, reports kept coming in from the field from Herald to Herald as well. So
Absolutely, yeah.
his first appearance was at the very end.
And we were tweaking a lot of the stuff going through it based on what was going on in the modules. So everything was being tweaked in real time to reflect what was being done, what the players were doing. But that was the end of Legacy of Valor. Everything was gone. Very few heroes remained, but the Duke was safe and there would be hope for tomorrow.
It is impressive.
Yeah.
And that's just a prelude.
Yeah.
That's just
That
a
was,
prelude.
That was
to
a
get
one
people
shot.
interested.
One shot.
One weekend. Yep.
How many persons participated?
About 100.
100 plus the DMs and writers. I think it was like 9 or 10 of us ran the whole thing.
How many
So,
people? How
100
many characters
players.
survived in the end?
6.
Six.
Six is about right.
6 out of
Six.
100. Okay,
Yeah. That's
that's a good ratio.
mhm.
Excellent.
On their second or third or fourth character.
That's true.
100 died.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's true.
people were dying through the games. We weren't pulling any punches to let people survive to the end.
Oh, so they brought a new character. Okay,
Oh yeah. So whenever they died, they get a new
so
character.
it's more like 150. 6 out of 150.
That's
There was
probably
somebody-
very accurate.
Somebody died in every mod. I can't remember who it was.
Okay.
But one person died in every single. He had to keep coming over to David. David, I need to do the character.
It's kind of like eating spicy food. Everyone was a little like at first like, oh my God, did I just die? But then you start craving more of it. So yeah, then they started buying into it and they were
Yeah.
tossing back the peppers and margaritas.
It is really setting a precedent for what you did all those extra years. My
Well,
gosh.
lit creative fire. And to me, the greatest thing about being here tonight and listening to what I've listened to from all these other folks is recognizing the baton and how it was carried from that very beginning in year -1 or even possibly -2, all the way through the end by a bunch of really creative, talented, driven, and very
Yeah.
dedicated people.
Yeah.
I got one question from the audience I haven't asked yet. Morgan Greencastle asks, what was the craziest character of them all during the whole period?
Captain Geoff.
Okay.
Who was that?
Please tell us the story.
This is a creation of Ryan Richardson. Essentially, he went into a deep dive in 3rd edition and found out that you can, sorry, not Captain Geoff, General Geoff, that you could do a whole bunch of shield feats. And so he was literally Captain America with a Geoff shield,
Nice.
flinging it, hitting people, bashing people with it, 2 hands, and it was all just, he was General Geoff.
Wasn't it a tower shield too?
I think so. Towards the end,
Wow.
upgraded the tower shields.
Yeah.
It was insane, and you're like, "This is the goofiest thing I've ever heard of." But it was vulnerable because his armor class was shady levels, and then he could fling them, and they would boomerang back to him because he put returning on them. Because technically, if you put shield spikes on them, they became a weapon. So there we are. So that was the craziest thing: was General Geoff and his dual wielding tower shields.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to have to go with Thrump because he terrified regions all over the United States. That was the half ogre. And so he'd sit down at a table and go, I'm playing a half ogre. People are like, what?
I saw tables at Gen Con where he sat down and said, I'm Thromp, and the whole table went, what? They'd heard of him well before he got to the table.
Yeah.
And then he would pull out that piece of paper and was like, yeah, right here.
That's right.
Nice.
And there's usually a call or some conversations like, I gotta go talk to somebody about this.
You should have just stapled your business card to the paper.
Yeah, we got pretty good at forging Eric Mona's signature. So.
Oh man.
But you managed to liberate Geoff by the end of it, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mostly.
Okay.
Well, there's
yeah.
pockets of resistance.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, always keep for a second season, even if it doesn't come. Yeah.
Or the hills south. Not the corner there. What's the hills south of Geoff?
Stark Mounds.
Dark Mounds.
Dark Mounds. Those were still stone giant territory at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The frost giants were all up in the barrier peaks, and the fire giants pretty much decided that there were hotter places to be. And then hill giants are really good at like just finding an isolated valley.
Well,
So,
and One of the things that we didn't finish was we were using in the Stark Mounds that there were burial mounds in there as well, full of whites and all kinds of other nasty things that we never really quite got to.
Didn't we have a territorial dispute with, was it the yeomanry over the mounds?
No.
Who didn't we have a territorial dispute with?
No. Well, there was some debate whether they were part of Steric or not, but
Yeah.
he wasn't Steric.
If we hadn't had the power of the elder gods behind us, everybody would have been all over our territory.
Yeah.
But yeah, we the Stark Mounds were still the Stark Mounds and not under human control or Geoff control.
Yeah.
Dim Forest was still spooky even with Shady gone. The elves were trying to put things back together in the Hornwood and the Whitewood. I think they were pretty much decimated the Dim. Is that right, Jose?
That sounds right. Yeah, we actually gained after year 5. We actually gained land between the Stark Mounds and the Yavin River. There was like unclaimed territory, and it became like 3 new cantrevs right in there.
A cantrev is our minor
County, yeah.
And basically we're doing that because we're looking for higher characters, and we were letting them become Cantrevi lords.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're kind of like a county, Eric.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
So you could retire if you were high enough level and high enough rank in the Army of Liberation in the Net Orgs. You could retire as a county lord.
Yeah. The last source book I think we published had all the names of all the rulers of the different Cantrevi, and there were basically 9 out of 10 of them were player characters that retired.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So what's the one storyline the Triads wanted to do but they didn't get to?
Barrier Peaks.
Well, there was a storyline that I was working on in year 1 that Circle squashed, and it started out with the mod where, again, the priest got squished. But the final portion of that was they were able to acquire a goblin that was a traitor, and so he had information, and it was going to be a pathway for the PCs to get the goblins on their side.
Interesting.
But it got squashed pretty fast.
Eric?
There is a line of a breadcrumb trail that I was following through the Greyhawk books, and Crichton knows more about this, that I wanted to explore, that the cup and talisman of Al Akbar was in Geoff.
Huh.
Interesting.
You had to tie in across the mountains here.
Fascinating.
There is a couple rumors, a couple places where it involved the Mage of the Valley, who I wanted to play with, but we were also told no. But the cup and talisman disappeared from up in was it Ekbir? And there was a series of, there's a breadcrumb trail that leads it down that could be in the treasury of the Grand Duke of Geoff, although if it's still there is an entire question, but we never got to touch on that, which would have been a fascinating cross-regional event, I thought, because I thought the Ekbir Triad would be, and Testament Triad would be super interested in doing something like that.
That would be cool.
And I was talking to Nicolas Fillon up in Quebec about doing something with that someday, because it could be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brad? Is Brad still with us?
Oh, I'm still here. Gosh. Actually, nothing comes to mind right now. I'd have to think about it for a while. Because most of the time, a lot of the time, Eric did a lot of the storyline stuff. I was more along the lines of editing and that, more behind the scenes stuff. That and doing a lot of triad answering questions and meta org kind of things, but spending a lot of time at Eric's house doing playtesting and dropping my jaw every time Mark would hand us a stat block going, how did you come up with this again? But the numbers worked out every time, it's like, so yeah, that was.
Don't let Brad sell himself short. This campaign would not have worked without him. All the management, all the meta orgs, all the people that he kept in touch with, he made the trains run on time.
Yeah, there's no doubt. anyone who thinks this something like this goes down without a ton of work behind the scenes.
Oh, it was. It turned out by the end, I'll admit, I was probably spending. It was probably a second full-time job for me by the time it was all said and done, and I was pretty burned out when it was all said and
And it's
done.
volunteer. That's the worst part.
Yeah, but in the end, like I said, I had to go and recover for a little while, but I will say it was worth it because I enjoyed seeing people enjoy themselves, what they were doing with it. Probably one of I could come up with lots of stories, but one of the ones that stands out in my mind right now is we was getting ready to run a battle interactive the next day, and I had just done, because as a triad member, I was pretty much running every slot, and I had just done a Midnight Madness thing. I was wrapping up. I was sitting at a table by myself, and the table next to me, there was like these three guys, and they were from out of the region, but they had all the books out, right? And they were flipping through the books, going through like mad, trying to figure out what they were going to do for the battle interact. They were talking about strategy and all these kind of things, and what they thought they could get away with and whatnot. And I don't know, I was tired or whatnot, but as I was going by them, I just kind of leaned over and I said, you shouldn't really worry about what the DM will let you get away with. It's the triad members you got to worry about, because they're the ones that have to take all this stuff for months on end, and they'll come after you. That's the time they get it's a cathartic one. And we all chuckle because they didn't see my name badge, because it says Brad Lester, Geoff Triad on it, but they didn't see it. So I go to bed, come down the next day. We're setting up for the interactive. I hadn't planned on running anything. I was going to do kind of admin stuff, but William Red came up to me and goes, Brad, I hate to ask, but can you run a table? Because I need more judges, because we had a big turnout. I want to say it was the Oitwood, but so I said, sure, okay, fine, I'll do it. So he leads me over to this table and sets me down, and there's 6 players there. And of course, 3 of them were the 3 guys from the night before. And he goes, gentlemen, he says, I got a surprise for y'all. It says, this is going to be a real treat. This is Brad Lester. He's on the Geoff Triad, so he knows all there is to know about this interactive, and you could just see these guys go white as sheets. and it was like, looked at them all and I said, oh yes, I'm going to take care of all of you, each and every one. And you could just see the look on their face. But no, I didn't. I mean, I made them work for it, but in the end, they came through, because generally the way I ran LG mods and battle interactives and stuff like that is as long as you weren't doing something dumb, I would pretty much let you. Now, of course, obviously, sometimes the dice didn't go in your favor. That just happens. But yeah, you don't go walking up to the hill giant and say, "Carry my luggage." But But at the end, one of the guys did come up to me and said, "Hey, it was the most fun he'd had in a long time." But yeah, I had scared the pants off of them. But at the end, though, they had really enjoyed themselves, and it was just seeing that on people. It was one of the reasons why I came and going through it all the time, because there was a lot of times people were constantly just complaining about things. It's like, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? It's like, well, no, and that's just the way it's going to be. I didn't have to have a reason. It's just because a lot of the times too, it was the circle that said, no, you can't do that either. But yeah. So.
Well, there was one thing I didn't like about Living Greyhawk, and that's when they started calling us judges instead of game masters.
Darn Skippy.
I did not like that change, because they really did think of us as judges instead of game masters. We weren't allowed to step outside of the box or the mod at all. And we had to judge what the PCs were doing, not give them a game, not play with them.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it may have only been a name, but it did change the feel for me.
Yeah,
that might be my fault from Gen Con.
Again, back to the David problem.
I think by the time that I was trying it, a lot of that had really gotten slack as far as their controls and their micromanagement. So I think I had it pretty easy, insofar as I didn't have to worry about that stuff. Steven Conforti, who was our guy, was really laid back, like Eric was talking about. But by that point, we had so many players invested in the storyline, a lot of POCs taking care of different storylines, that the workload was really well distributed by that point. So by year 7 and 8, it was a lot easier than what you guys experienced, I'm sure. And a lot more helpers.
So, Eric, do you want to talk at all about what I consider to be the most amazing non-creative part of y'all's success in Geoff, which would be moving a convention to the region?
Here comes Rob. What? Rob's coming back on. Yeah, please tell that story.
Which is this the Cross Regional Interactive with Keoland?
No, I'm thinking Winter Fantasy.
Oh, yes.
Please tell that. I'll be right back.
You could have never done that, but for the huge success that you cultivated.
Oh man, they've been mad at me ever since. Oh, we don't mention that.
Well, we just did, so there.
Oh, don't mention it longer. Yeah, for a while, I foolishly said, "Oh, it would be great if you brought Winter Fantasy," because back then Winter Fantasy wasn't a Ballman Games adventure a convention; it was the RPGA convention. And I was lobbying them that they should totally bring it to DC because we needed an East Coast convention. DC is very centrally located on the middle of the East Coast, and it's not nearly as expensive as New York City, and it has multiple airports. And they foolishly agreed and brought it to DC for 2 or 3 years. I forget which. But I thought they were going to go to a hotel out by Dulles, which is way west of DC. Instead, they went to Crystal City, which is where Amazon is building their second headquarters now, which is right across the street from Reagan National Airport. So everything is extremely expensive there. And I was kind of curious why they decided to go to that airport instead of Dulles, where parking's free. Everything's free out there because it's so far out. Yeah, we kept that for a while, for 2 or 3 years, and then Wizards decided that they were tired of being in the convention business and got out of it, spun it off, and Dave took it back over, and Dave said, I can't afford for Crystal City, Alexandria area, so he moved it back to Fort Wayne because the rent, the spaces are cheap, the hotel rooms are cheap, everything's expensive because there's not a lot of demand to go to Fort Wayne, Indiana in early February.
Except for the fact that it's freaking cold.
It's really cold. Especially that wind gets good head start and blows down. But Fort Wayne, actually, the past 2 or 3 years has really re-energized itself downtown. I've been very impressed. Also, it's a lot easier to deal with than Crystal City. It's just parking isn't a big deal. There's plenty of restaurants, and everything is cheaper. But that was the first place I met this guy that did a crazy little comic book called Order of the Stick. And he was there drawing these little stick figures for people for like $20 that he would draw a stick figure of your character. In this weird style for his comic book that he was peddling, which probably nothing came out of it. Certainly not $1 million Kickstarter. That was the first time I met him and where he got his first start.
Fascinating.
He's a lot of fun, by the way, in person.
It sounds like you're all a lot of fun, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It sounds like the entire crew. I mean, the personalities.
I'm manipulative and I have an agenda.
Dave has an
We had to
agenda.
cover for David all the time. It got tedious.
If Dave is talking to you, he has an agenda.
So why don't we go around the table, because I know that'll probably take about a half hour because with so many people, and give us a little synopsis and closing of your final experiences and just what you got going on now in the real world, what you're playing, if anything, or if, what you hope to do. Jose, we'll start with you.
I think I already sort of summed up my final experience. It was sort of disappointing with the cancellation of the campaign, but actually in retrospect, this sort of turned out to be a good thing. The story wrapped up pretty nicely, and after that, fourth edition came out. We sort of left a bitter taste in our mouth. So my friends and I went on and played other games. And only recently did I get back into past couple years get back into fifth edition D&D. And now next Saturday, first and second edition
This
hybrid.
Yes.
Yes.
1E2E.
There you go.
Old school.
And now I am was up until very recently working in a regional theater, but now I am going to be freelancing, doing artwork, hopefully doing this for a living. I don't know if you've got my website up there, but it's jejortiz.com. Instagram is the same thing, and I'm currently working on a few projects, one for the DMs Guild and some other art related projects. So
I linked to your website. It did not come up.
Nice.
Maybe it's www probably.
Yeah.
It's fantastic
It's
work.
you missed a R in there. You missed an R.
Oh, geez, duh. That would do it. Yeah, ortiz.com. Let's see if that works that time.
Thank you.
Yeah, please check it. Please check it out. And I've just been so busy. I know I want to get with Jose on maybe some projects for me personally. But I know we're all running around like madmen with everything going on in our lives. But definitely some unbelievable artwork. I know you're posting on Instagram again. I saw too. So
yeah. I'm terrible at the social media, but now it's sort of a requirement of the job. So yeah, I'll start
absolutely. But
is that amazing backdrop behind you, Jose? Your work?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I did that for the campaign. There's the green man's face, and that was brought to all the conventions along with a few other items.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
I love the green really is fantastic, and I know I read it up close. That was actually really useful for pulling in people. People at conventions would be like, "Come over and want to play," or at least ask about what was going on. But,
yeah.
We also showed on the first show the drawings you did for that Eric has,
Mm-hmm.
which is unbelievable. Those drawings.
Yeah.
So
Thank
definitely
you.
hats off. I think you'll be successful. There's no doubt in my mind. There's a demand out there. No, there's a demand out there. Absolutely. Once word gets out there, there'll be you'll have too much work. Your website will say commissions closed. I have no doubt about it.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Absolutely, definitely. Shalom.
So right now, the only thing I'm doing with gaming is I'm running a Star Wars D6 game for my cousin and his sons. So we're doing that and introducing them to gaming. And yeah, I'm starting to get back into it again. I'm actually playing online in games once a week. May go up to twice a week, but we'll see. And just trying to get my feet back into the water. And yes, David and I have been talking for the last couple of years about doing some things. Yes, there's always stuff in the mill. Don't know if anything's ever going to come of it, but it's there. So I'm just, now that my kids are pretty much grown and out of the house, I now have free time. So I'm starting to get back into gaming.
There's no reason why you couldn't, for Virtual GreyhawkCon, you could joint DM something too. There's no reason why you couldn't.
Oh, no, that's happened in the past. You really be careful.
No. If everyone knows that they're going in, that they're probably not going to come out alive. So but
we've lost actual players, not just characters.
Something to consider, though. Food for thought there. Brad, how about you? Brad, you're muted. I think we can't hear you.
Keep rubbing up against that button.
There we go.
I talked about before, at the end of the 5-year thing for me, or the year 5 for me. But I guess, here recently, I'm playing in one Chaos Marches D&D setting, 5th edition. And then I'm running a fate-based thing of my own design for a group of friends. So
Cool.
they had asked me to do something for them. Just trying to get the creative thing started again myself. Also, I had been, over the past couple of years, been putting a lot of notes of things and ideas together I've always wanted to write a novel, and I keep starting on it and stopping. So I'm trying to push through and actually do that this time.
You need an illustrator, or you might be able to.
Yeah, no, it's science fiction. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah.
That work for you?
Sure. Why not?
Fantastic. Best of luck with that, man. Just
Thank you.
stick with it. It's just like sometimes you'd be amazed that you get to a point like, oh my gosh, I did it. It's just you start something and then it just starts flowing. So I really hope that you continue with that and get it written. Definitely. Rob.
So David and Sholem and I think basically because of living Geoff, I think I moved down to Richmond to hang out and play with them. Then David moved, and Sholem and I broke up. So we moved back. We recently moved back up here to Maryland, which is where my wife's originally from. But I would say after there was a good 6-8 years there where family and the kids was taking a lot more of my time. Then they started to get back into it, and we came up here. There was a Greyhawk Reborn group, and the excited, this looked interesting to me, and happened after all this time to run into Jose at a convention for that, and it lucked out, and now Jose is running. Pre-COVID is running a campaign for us here.
It's on pause right now.
He and I married twins of each other. They're very similar, and it's been a very different campaign. It's been I don't want to use the word mature because still very childish.
The dirty word.
Very different campaign from what we've done in the past. It's a lot of fun. Have some of it. It's actually is. It's nice. We play here, and to have an artist running the campaign has been a lot of fun because we have some of the stuff hanging up on the wall. It's always rather than describe it, all of a sudden he'll just whip out this sheet that he was drawing up in his spare time. Just oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then since COVID, all the juices started flowing again. All those years off, and I started running my own campaign, setting Geoff and Keelan. And I actually downloaded. I bought off the DM's Guild this series of encounters as modules that was perfect for what I wanted. And I'm like, this is great. There's actually some really good stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I was sitting on my table, and I'm like, it's by Eric Mengi. I think you got $2 from me, bud. Woo! Hope you can retire now. Well, that's the fun now. Getting back.
Rob, if you were still active with Greyhawk Reborn, here are some of the names of those DMing at Virtual Greyhawk Con. There's 15 Greyhawk Reborn events. If you know any of these people, John Lentz, Bill Gardino, Joe DeBarry, Tom Garlick, Dave Guerreri, Jay Stupinski, Dave O'Connor. So that's
it's a great group. They're doing some outstanding things. I definitely recommend it. The home campaign with the kids and everything. Actually, my whole family played there for the first time, but it's a great campaign. I have a lot to recommend for it. Yeah, and that's a group of some very good people. So,
Balford also just posted something to vote for Greyhawk in that little thing that's going on with WotC. Even though it takes about an hour to fill out that, please fill that out when you get a chance for the WotC site as well. Absolutely, Rob. Thanks, man. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun touching base with everyone again.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
David.
Yes, I didn't do it.
Oh, I believe you.
So I am an eternal tinkerer. I am always tinkering with games and looking at other systems just to try to draw their essence forth and use them. I use currently I'm running a game called Dark Passages, which is a turn of the century pre-World War I game and Fate horror. It's like the tagline for it was, "What if Cthulhu investigators actually had powers?" and it's pretty popular. People like it. Not widespread, but those who play it like it. I'm running a game virtually for my daughter and her boyfriend, as well as the people I have living here in the house with me, which is my son and my wife and my daughter-in-law. That's just a standard D&D game. And I'm currently the only project I'm really working on is I am in the midst of trying to put together all the notes I need to write a campaign guide for the world of one of my best friends who died about 3 years ago.
Oh.
And I told him that I would bring his world forward and turn it into something that people wanted to play. He'd been running it for 35 years plus.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's and that's what I'm running for my kids and my wife. So there's a lot of deep history there, and I'm finding out that I need to start documenting, because there's a lot of things I know from having played in the setting that nobody else knows unless I tell them.
Document, don't throw anything away.
I agree wholeheartedly. So anyway, that's going to keep me very busy, I'm sure. Plus, I just moved to Dallas about a year ago, and I'm acclimating myself to the area. There is like a convention here every month through the spring and summer. It's an incredible place to play.
It's too bad ReaperCon went virtual, because that would be coming up Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll be there next weekend. I'm convinced a lot of this is going to die down next year. So
cool.
I'm looking forward to next year.
Well, I'll be there, and I'll meet you then. So
that'd be great,
because Reaper's a huge sponsor of this channel. So they are a fantastic company. We'll talk about that during my shout outs.
There you go.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Eric.
See. Still working on the Moon Shays for Bald Man Games. We've got to bring that in for landing, conclude the Rising Shadows story arc this February. It's kind of like Geoff, just condensed. So instead of 5 years, we only had 3 years. And also he has a lot more adventures. So instead of 8 adventures a year, he's got 18, which I never should have agreed to. Ever. 8 was the right number. So I'll be very happy when that is over, because it means we get another project wrapped up, and I hope people really like that conclusion. Also going to be working with Teos Abadia, who is one of our fantastic writers and contributors to the Living Geoff region back in the day. We're going to be doing Ice Treks, which will be a DM's Guild product.
Is that tying into Rime of the Frost Maiden?
It is.
Oh.
So if you remember the old Side Treks feature in Dungeon magazines, we were doing that. We're doing short little one-off adventures that you can drop in at any point in time that you can finish in a single night, preferably within 2 hours. And that way they can just supplement what you need. And if you're like, well, the player's going this way and nothing happens on their journey, well, drop in one of these. And Teos is a very imaginative man. I love working with him. I have some home games, doing a virtual or online Curse of Strahd, where I decided to have some fun with it. One of them has already played Curse of Strahd, so I'm adding new things to it that's not in the book. Like at Yester Hill, since they have druids, it was like, oh, I know druids. And so it turned out that the Yester tree on Yester Hill actually is a portal to Fairy, and they've gone through the portal and they found out that the Dream Grove on the other side is threatened by the Nightmare, which sounds suspiciously like Strahd. So they find out that the vampires is a story of Barovia is being echoed in the Feywild on a different level, and they have to figure out how to stop the Feywild Strahd as well as the Barovian Strahd.
Shalom had to go. I know we're running late. Shalom had to go. Thank you so very much, Shalom, for coming on. Man, when you have fun like this, the time just flies by, doesn't it? It just flies right by. I mean, it's almost it's. We started Preludes a little early, so we're well over almost approaching three full hours of being on. And
is this Dickens? Are we getting paid by the word, or?
Yeah.
It definitely.
Only by the number of shout outs against me, Rob.
Hey, I don't think David made clear though that Dark Passages is something he's been designing and tweaking. I played it early on before he deserted us. I'm okay with that. But he put some really fun bling in that. I hope you do actually put that out there at some point. That would be a lot of fun.
I will. I have to do everything in my own time.
Yeah. And I think your time scale is very geological, but
Look, if I could clone myself to get all my ideas executed, I would.
I hear you.
Look, I want to ask you: are you running Strahd online, or is that face to face? Yeah, you, Eric.
Yes, we're online.
So if you're ever down a player and you'd like one, I would love to be there.
Interesting.
I've never played Strahd, but it's infamous, obviously, and I would love to.
I will keep you in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. And I love cerebral games, as you know. I mean, the ferry were my favorite part.
Well, I think they're coming back. They're chickening out, and they're afraid they'll get stuck in the Feywild, which I certainly have let them believe they can get stuck there. They did run into the Cavalier, which was a Headless Horseman Knight version.
Nice.
So he wants to take your head and rides the roads of Barovia trying to chop your head off and use it as their own. And he's a decapitating cavalier, so the decapalier.
Nice.
Good times.
I ran the Cackalier, who's just the guy who laughs a lot.
I was waiting for someone to put the Headless Horseman in Ravenloft. That was, it just makes total sense,
Well, they had it in the old 2E Ravenloft books. I just had to lift it, and 5E is right next door to 2E. It's so easy to convert.
Cool.
Yes, it is.
It's easier to go from 2E to 5E than to go from 3E to 5E.
Yeah, that is true. Or, you can just stay in 1E, 2E.
Could do that.
Yeah. My guys just can't. I can't teach old dogs new tricks, nor been playing with them for 40 years, and some of them don't remember what they had for lunch. So sometimes you have to make concessions. So, Mike, you were awfully quiet tonight. What's going on?
Not by accident. It's so provide these guys more time to relay their stories to us.
That's cool.
But
bloviate.
Yeah,
that's the word you're looking for.
He's got a great new post.
Yeah. Go to Greyhawkery. I got a post on there about a flying galleon. Anyhow, no, I was gonna quickly. I got to put Gary Holian in his place. Earlier in the chats, he was putting down my all, saying it's Northwest. Geoff.
I know.
Yeah,
I saw that.
I got to point out that there's a reason the Giants attacked Geoff.
Yep.
It's because they didn't want to go to all. Okay.
Yep.
So
anyhow,
I took the easy path. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
But no, I've been bowled over by you guys. I love everything I've heard about Geoff. It's one of the only places I've never gamed at in my own campaign for some reason. But hearing all the stuff about Living Greyhawk, it's intrigued me, and I wish I had played that above all others I've heard so far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say what these guys created is better than what was in print before they created it.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a lot of that in a lot of areas, which is
really
fantastic about the entire setting. So Mike will get revenge on you. That's all I'm going to say, and it's going to be coming that Saturday night when you and Eric Mona and Luke Gygax and Anna and Steven Chenault and Chuck Humbo play in my all-star game, the main event for Virtual Greyhawk Con. That's all I'll say.
Watch your back.
Yes, watch what happens, and it'll be courtesy of Mike and me collaborating on something. But Mike's gonna So there you go. So payback's gonna be bitch. So Anna, what's going on?
First, I have a little handout to show, so to speak. I'm worked for Gryffindor Games, and they have a new product that's coming out soon that is on Indiegogo. and here is a
What?
map.
Oh.
It's Tales of Lothmore. It's a bunch of products coming out, and this is one of the projects that I've been working on.
There you
and
go.
and I'm going to post a link in chat here in a second, and that is coming. So if you're interested to see a little bit what I'm doing when I'm not working on Greyhawk, so let's see if I can post that. It's to their blog, and it's a blog post that shows a little bit of maps and stuff. So that's been going on in the background. And then I'm also working on Coral Press. We have a huge project it's a project that refused to die. So it's kind of an undead project by now. There's more things to add and whatnot's gone on for over years. So these two have taken half of my time, but I've also been so inspired by all the awesome stuff we've done here on Legends and Lore and on Gavin. So thank you everyone for kind of putting my creative juices on hyperdrive here. So it's been awesome. So I've done all the 50 area maps are done. I'm have the last 2 that I will probably fix tomorrow and do. So then the atlas goes into the next phase, and that means that we go to collect. And thankfully to Duane Costa, one of my patrons and an awesome guy that helps me with the index. So we will have a raw index with all the information on the maps, and I will send it out there so people can look at it and check spelling and see if there's any completely weirdo things that comes out. And then he's going to write a script so we can put out all the duplets and get the information sorted out. So the master index, there will be a going on. So that he's taking care of that part. And while he's doing that in September and the rest of August, I will do the overview map, political maps, and a bunch of other cool stuff that I want to be the legend and stuff like that, and the covers. So the atlas looks that it's actually ahead of schedule a bit. So that means that I will get some half days and some whole days in between to do other cool stuff. And one of the things, since I'm doing my 2-hour seminar on my version of Greyhawk, my campaign and the settings, so that meant that I've spent some time on my campaign map, and I'm also diving deep into things. Especially, I have to kind of write things down properly, things that have just been notes. And one of the rabbit holes I went down a couple of more days, I spent 2 days on actually, is to write the history and go back into one of my favorite villains, the Horn Society.
Nice.
So I have some cool updates and some stuff, because they will play a part in my upcoming Shieldlands campaign. So that's why I got into and I have some interesting theories and ideas and stuff that you can use with Horn Society, even whether they are abolished as a running the actual country or not. There's still some interesting ideas, and there are an interesting group of villains in more ways than one. They are ancient. They are some of the oldest villains around in the setting. They're not the newcomers like I use or even the Erdi. They are old, and they have some interesting twists to them that I think are really cool. And they are multi-dimensional in the way that some of the others are not, so to speak. So there are some cool things you can do. And the way I try to do it is that I try to take all the information that is there and then not change anything, just add to it and make it deeper. That's the approach I've taken with the Horn Society. So I try to not go against any of the published sources, and then try to tweak it. And there are some interesting things. I'm going to mention one of them. There is a necropolis up in the Fell Reeve. That is something that has to do with the Horn Society.
Nice.
And there's an interesting connection to it that is really, really, really cool. And that will play one part in my upcoming Shieldlands campaign. So that was one of the things I want to talk about on my seminar.
So if you don't know, the main highlight for Friday night, the first night of Virtual Greyhawk Con, is Anna Meyer's seminar. It'll be on this channel, of course, and it's 7 p.m. EDT that night, first night. And so if we go to highlighted streams, which we have on here, you see it there, Greyhawk campaign of Anna Meyer, 7 p.m. And then we'll be splitting our audience when we're done and raiding half into Carlos and the other half into Will. I got to figure out how I'm going to do that, but I'll figure it out. So because there'll be 2 other games going on at that time, but that's going to be that's going to be the main highlight of. And I'm hoping that we get close to breaking a viewer record for that. It's going to be a really exciting seminar. I think it's going to be some knowledge people have been waiting to hear about for years. That
well, not knowledge maybe, but there
well,
will be
yeah,
some cool ideas and
yeah,
stuff like that that you can take to your own games if
yeah,
you want to,
absolutely,
if you like them. Yeah. Hmm.
definitely. So thank you all for a great show. I got a couple quickie shout outs. Tomorrow night, we start adventure number 886. Yes, that's adventure numbers, guys. For any of you new, my campaign is 40 years continuously running Greyhawk. So this is like our 2700th session or something like that. That's what we guess. Trouble at Deep Stream Hamlet outside of Altamira in the county of Ulick. With the legendary, in their minds, group Theo's Heroes. Their leader is a jester from the Dragon magazine. Yes, he's a jester. Absolutely. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Theodore Craxus. Yes. So that'll be tomorrow night. Stratagem, everyone's favorite Titan Dice giveaway tomorrow night. One for subscribers, one for followers. General signups. Subscribers don't need to be on, but the general signups would do at the time, and we usually draw around 11 p.m. when we finished up. Saturday night, 6 p.m. We're gonna start. We always start like a little early, so we get this done in one night. The next Living Greyhawk All Stars game. Look at the names on this: Joe Selby, Casey Brown, Andy McCullough, Anna Meyer, Susan Threadgill, Judy Roloff, and Jose Ortiz. Right? So there you go. It is always sunny is the name of the adventure, whatever that means. So I always throw these weird names out there just to get Casey and Joe, who are so paranoid, thinking the worst possibilities. So you'll just, and it's all out of Greyhawk City. The adventure group's cannon fodder, and they're moving up the Mercenary Guild rankings now. 4 of their members are members of the Order of Ulick now as apprentices. So, and plus we have 2 lawful good characters coming in. So, yay for goodness, nay for the crazies in the party. So there you go. And there's a lot of fan interaction on these nights because there's people, throwing out cheers for you and cheers against you. It'll be a real fun night. And that's Saturday, 6 p.m. we start. That Sunday, I got a mega interview. Gavin number 104. I got Jim Ward on. Okay. So everyone knows this book. And I want to talk to him about his experiences with Gary, the writing of this book. Gary Julian has suggested that I get Dennis Tetro Malden on. I'm going to try and see if Malden wants to help me with the interview as well.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. But I know he'll definitely be on with me for that. And then Mike doesn't even know this because we forgot to tell Mike our
yeah.
Well, what next week's topic is.
Yeah.
This was Anna's idea.
Yeah, yes, it's my fault. Yeah, we had when we talked about the last Gabby, when we talked about modules and stuff, we talked about Emedio and
the tropics,
Mona Land and stuff. So we're going to have the tropics of the Flannies.
We're going to do
we talked about so many
of the Flannies next week.
Okay.
So the Emedio and they have Mona Land
and
so
Cauldron and Sassarine and whatever else you want to discuss from there. I asked Carlos Lacing to come on. He hasn't given me a commitment yet because he's done his Mona Land project. We'll see, but that'll be.
We can see if we can squeeze that out of him because I'm waiting for it. So,
yes, or maybe just for him to discuss it and give us a little detail. But that's what we'll discuss on next Wednesday's Gavin. All right, so big thing.
And lore.
Yeah, duh. It's a talk show.
Yeah, you do it every so many per
2 a
week.
week. Yeah, sometimes my brain gets fried. All right, so
it's awesome.
Note to that Friday night, Anna is the main event. Saturday night of Greyhawk Con, I have Luke Gygax, Eric Mona, Gary Julian, Anna, Steven, and Chuck Gumbel all playing in my game. I cannot wait for that. And we got so many highlighted events. There's 58 or 59 events now. And only like 14 of them are sold out, everyone. So there's a ton of great games that people. Scott Casper's game's not sold out yet. I don't know how that's possible. He's running an OD&D game. I mean, that should be sold out by now, right? Mike,
Yeah.
you're in that game, right?
I'm in the one Casey's.
Oh, you want
No,
one of
but-
Casey's?
Well,
Are you one of
I haven't
Alan's?
I haven't signed up to. Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, go ahead. Huh?
I was just going to say I'm saving just in case someone wants that seat. But if not, I'm going to be in that game definitely. Yep.
So there's a lot of amazing
Yep.
games going on, and then
Yep.
Sunday night, to wrap it all up during our Gavin time, we have an Ask the Expert show. We have Gary Julian, Leonard Lakofka, Grodog, Alan Growy, and Dennis Malden-Tetro as the Ask the Experts. And we may have a couple other people who may want to volunteer and do that as well. So we have a ton of content coming out. On a sponsor note, that is our first printed piece from Gamescape 3D. I'm doing a Lowland Road system. I want to get rid of the crappy, you know me, everything. I want the terrain. I want the viewability. It's got the cart. You can see the cart tracks are right in there. So my guys are starting to print out this stuff from our newest sponsor in the 3D printer terrain world. So we that piece took 9 hours to print. That's how. Yeah, it just takes a lot of time. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. See you all tomorrow night. How's that? We'll have a fun game tomorrow night. It's a one-shot. 4 streams in 5 nights. So the only night I'm off this week is Friday. We go Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Lots of content going out. Thank you everyone for coming on. Members, I'm offering you again, just like I do with the other group. If you guys want to have a group, and do a one-shot and just see how it goes. Every couple months, every 3 or 4 months, I'm up for it. I will do it. I will run you guys through some stuff in my world. Check the game out Saturday, and if you think it would be something you like, let me know.
That's great.
The offer's out there. Okay.
I'll have my people talk to your people for sure.
All right.
Cool. Yep.
All right. That is awesome. We definitely can work something out there. All right. Well. We're going to raid into, even though it's not AD&D, I'm going to raid into Will. He's got it's a vampire game going on, but Will's a Greyhawk streamer, and we're going to raid into a good friend tonight. So thank you, Lex. Thank you all for, Skip Williams also tied to gargoyles. That Gary, I don't know if is that a good thing?
Don't pay attention to him.
Oh, okay. Gary's being very facetious tonight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Frank, thank you. All right. I'm going to hit the wrong button, I know. Did I hit the right button? Guys, we chat a little bit afterwards. If you want to hang, feel free. I'm going to set up a raid here.
Unfortunately, got to get going. I got a little puppy to take care of. Brand new.
Jose, if you have any other questions, just let me know. If you can get on by 5:30 on Saturday,
absolutely.
it would be great. Okay.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Seeing you again.
You too. Absolutely.
Excellent.
Bye,
Take care,
guys.
Jose.
It was good seeing you, Dave.
You
Seeing
too.
you.
Brad.
Bye.
Take care,
Bob.
Jose.
See you soon. Bye, guys.
All right. Setting up raid here.
I'm going to head out too.
Yeah. Me
Thank
too.
you. You guys were fantastic tonight.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
It
you
was,
so much for including
it
me.
was fantastic.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Later, Ron. You gonna break your own rule and play online with me? Please, please, please.
There he goes with that evil mastermind stuff again. You know I will.
It's really, really hard to say no.
Yeah, you know the squirt will be worth the twist.
That's no doubt.
Proud of that, like, how am I a triad member? What the hell? I went in there for a group of
10
those. One
seconds,
adventure.
Radiant.
One.
It's a black bag operation, Eric.
Asking everybody, what's a triad? What does this badge mean I'm wearing?
I thought the Chinese mafia had interest in you, Ron.
By the way, last second, I'm linking Cannon Fire Discord in there. Gary Julian has an open invitation for you all to go on there. Here comes the raid. Raiding now.
Oh, sweet. Discord. Woo!
You know, it occurred to me that's very aptly named.
Yeah.
When he talked about it earlier being a place where people like to rage.
Yep.
Let me turn this